Morning Headlines brought to you by VenueKings.com. Tickets for Hawk home and away games available at VenueKings.com. Now back to Mitch in the Morning on Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Well, here we are, a second day. We made it past the first one. It's a third day for the Seahawks, day 3 of Seahawks training camp, the VMAC. Mitch of the Morning, Hugh Breedlove Millen. We'll get it started here in a second. I guess I got to give you the headlines, and I got a lot of them. Malik McDowell reportedly could make an appearance here at the VMAC today. At least that's the report.
Yep.
Every eye, every camera is preparing for the big man's arrival. What will he look like? Will he be able to play? These are questions that need to be answered. Just because he's reporting doesn't necessarily mean he's close to being able to play. And in fact, maybe he's just reporting so he doesn't get fined. He doesn't want to lose money. Cam Chancellor says he's optimistic a contract extension will be completed by the regular season opener. That was a headline yesterday. Eddie Lacy says his weakness is Chinese food. That's the problem. He's got to swear off of Chinese food. He eats way too much Chinese food. And I think somebody may have even asked him what he eats at a Chinese restaurant, and he said, I think I'm gonna pass on answering that question. I don't know if he's a wonton guy or what. Thriller last night deep in the heart of Texas. Woo. Well, the Mariners are over 500 again, ladies and gentlemen. Robbie Cano with a 2-run double in the 9th off of a sidearm left-hander. How about that? Actually, it wasn't a 2-run double. It was a 2-run single. I lied.
Yeah, he tried to make it a 2-run double.
He got thrown out at second, but you were never so excited. You were never so worry-free about Robbie Cano getting thrown out at second as you were last night because 2 runs had scored. The damage had been done. And then Sugar comes in the bottom of the 9th, throwing absolute gas. In fact, the final pitch of the night where he struck out Rougned Odor swinging 100 miles an hour, Slick Hawk.
Yes, sir.
100 miles an hour on the last pitch of the night to seal the Mariners' victory. They are 1 game over 500. Trading deadline comes. Trading deadline goes. The Mariners don't do much right there at the end. Erasmus Ramirez, I think, today in Texas for the first time since he's been back and rejoined the Mariners. Lots of activity around baseball yesterday. I can't mention all of them. Here's some of the biggies. Yu Darvish traded to the Dodgers for prospects. Sonny Gray goes from Oakland to the Yankees for a package of prospects. Astros get Francisco Liriano from the Blue Jays for Nori Aoki in a minor leaguer. Why in the world would the Blue Jays want Nori Aoki?
They must like his 283 batting average annually?
Whatever he like. I mean, the Blue Jays have no use for Nori Aoki. Red Sox get Mets closer Addison Reed yesterday in some of the activity before the Major League Baseball trading deadline. The number 1 prospect in the sport of baseball, according to many, Mets 21-year-old shortstop Ahmed Rosario will make his big league debut tonight for New York. And speaking of prospects, one note you want to hear, one note you don't want to hear, Slick Hawk. Which one would you like first? The one you don't want to hear or the one that you want to hear?
Give me the one I want to hear first.
Kyle Lewis hit his 4th home run in 36 at-bats for Modesto. Let's go nuts.
Let's go nuts.
He's hitting .333 in his first 36 at-bats for Modesto. Another home run for Kyle Lewis. Now you want to cover your ears?
Okay. What don't I want to hear?
Tyler O'Neill in Memphis last night. A single, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 home runs and 14 RBIs in his first 9 games since the trade that sent him to the Cardinals organization from the Mariners organization. Did I run out of music already? Come on.
Yeah.
You can't let that happen. And my final story of the morning is a nice story, although it doesn't even come close to resolving is not the right word. What I have called on my show over the years, this is just my opinion. If you Millen said to me, you know, Mitch, I was wondering driving in today. I was thinking about you, Mitch, my buddy Mitch Levy. I was really thinking about you driving in. If you said to me to start the show, Mitch, in all the years you're doing KJR and WTEM in Washington, D.C., and all the years you're doing this sports radio thing that you do, whatever it is that you do, what's the, let's say, worst or most unfair sports story in your career that you've seen?
Really?
The caveat is that doesn't involve illness or death or injury, okay? Mm-hmm. There is no question what I would tell you is the biggest, most unfair, sad, worst sports story of my lifetime as a sports fan. As my 40 years, let's say 40 years as a sports fan, where I know what the hell I'm watching.
Okay.
And that's Steve Bartman.
Oh.
Steve Bartman. Awful. Awful, awful, awful what has happened to Steve Bartman all over that ill-fated moment in 2000 and what was it, 2002, 2003?
Yeah.
Did you see what happened yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
He was presented a World Series ring by the Chicago Cubs, which is a very nice gesture. It doesn't do anything. I'll read to you the statement that the Cubs made. I'll read to you the statement that Bartman made. And it's a nice story. Unfortunately, there's nothing in my world that can undo what has already been done in that story. That's a devastating story as far as I'm concerned, over something, if you've watched the documentaries about it, over something that I truly believe 99.99999% of Cubs fans and sports fans, would have done exactly the same thing. Yet the man's life has been absolutely ruined by one quick gesture in the spur of the moment at that playoff game against the Marlins. Anyway, there you go. 6:06 on 950 KJR. Let's get it.
Wilson airing it deep, looking for Person. The end zone. The pass is juggled, and it is caught.
Kaepernick is in trouble. Ball's out. Recovered by Bennett.
Your home for the 12th man in the NFL is live from the VMAC for Seahawks training camp.
This 12th man factors in, no doubt.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Now, he may not have been thinking about me driving in, but I can guarantee you, I was thinking about him driving in. So ask me what I was thinking. Why were you in my mind driving in?
Thinking, Mitch?
I was thinking about yesterday's debut edition of What's on Hugh's Mind. What does Hugh want to get off his chest? And I was thinking about what happened at 9 o'clock.
Oh, I see.
Versus what happened at the designated 8 o'clock.
First of all, that was y'all's decision on that. It wasn't I came to you guys and said, I need to get this off my chest.
No, I think it was the most brilliant decision we've ever made.
Oh, okay.
Potentially.
All right.
But I just chuckled to myself driving in today on the short commute about all of us getting in an office and deciding, hey, what can we do? What can we do different at Training Camp 2017?
Yeah.
We've done all of these training camps. What can we institute? What can we do that would be fun, that the listeners would enjoy, that we would enjoy first? Because I don't really care that much about the listeners.
Now, tell me,
what can we do?
This is you and Rich Moore.
Rich Moore,
and
Purple Sheep Moore.
Slick
Hawk.
Producer.
Dick Fain,
yep.
Yeah, the receptionist,
okay,
yeah, the janitor,
yep.
And all the other employees of Clear Channel are now iHeart Radio Seattle, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And I said, I think somebody might have even been Slick Hawk. Somebody was talking about Hugh Breedlove Millen and his participation on the radio station, and we were talking about when you are at your best. And this is not really about you, because this is about any of us, when any of us are at our best. But particularly you, I think. When you are at your best is when you kind of go off about something that's passionate, something that's in your mind, that you're semi-passionate about, that you've thought about, that is either bothering you or maybe that's not bothering you, something that some credit, something positive, something that when you start going off on Hugh Millen, whether it's football or non-football, whether it's Seahawks or non-Seahawks, when something that just pops into your mind that kind of you share with us, we believe that you're at your best. So I said, he stands around, he watches practice, he's got lots of thoughts. He really only follows our lead during the radio show when we have him on as a co-host. He follows my lead. He kind of just goes along wherever I take him. He goes along. What if we just allowed him one time a morning to just share with us something that's going? And I don't want to know. The key is I don't want to know. I don't want there to be any preparation on my behalf. I don't want to have any knowledge. I just want to be your audience, and I want to look you in the eye and hear what's on your mind on that particular day. Because you always got and sometimes it's basketball, sometimes it's baseball, sometimes it's just sports, sometimes it's something other than sports. Most of the time it would be about the Seahawks, I would think. And so yesterday we came to you and we said to you, we like to do this, and you said, okay, what are you going to call it? What are you going to call it? I want to make sure that I approve of the title.
Hang on.
And I said
exactly how it went.
And this is the way it's been portrayed to me.
This is the Mitch version.
No, this is the way it's been portrayed to me. The first question out of Hugh's mind out of his mouth was, "What are you going to call it?" You talked to Slickhawk. This was his version of the story.
Well, his
what are you going
to? Wrong.
What are you going to call?
Wrong. I call you. We talked last Thursday. We spoke. You called me. I missed the call by 2 minutes. I called you back. There was no answer. I called again. You answered. I explained
I was on vacation, by the way.
Yeah, you were on vacation.
Hiking with my family where there was some cell in and out, but go ahead.
I explained this segment to you. I was in my car. I pulled up to 7-Eleven. I finished explaining, and then you asked the question, what's it going to be called?
You're wrong.
No.
Not only does he stand by that story, but I'll have you know that it made such a mark on him that was your first question, that he stopped and he sent me an email to say, you'll be interested to know that the first reaction from Hugh Millen was, what's this going to be called?
He's got it wrong. He misremembered this.
Maybe this is what's on your mind. Maybe we're doing this.
No, I love Slick. Slick.
Yeah.
You and Slick never did communicate very well. There's always
that's not true.
There's always something afoul. There's something. It's like two. If the cop said to you after he thought maybe you had a pop or two when he pulled you over, put your fingers together in front of your nose, you guys would just kind of. Like they wouldn't connect; they would just kind of miss one another, like the two fingers missing one another.
I will say that we frequently misconnect. That's true. I wouldn't say always. But now, Slick, let me tell you what actually happened, and tell me if you don't stand corrected. Okay. So the first question, you had it right. We talked about it, and there was no discussion about what the title was. You said it's going to be something like.
I know what I wanted.
Hugh's mind.
I know what I wanted the title.
Wait a second, Hugh.
I know what I wanted the title.
How is there no discussion about it if you know what the
title
was?
What you said was there's something what we thought. This is you talking now. What we thought was have a segment. What is Hugh thinking? And then you explained essentially what Mitch just described.
I didn't want what is Hugh thinking. I wanted Hugh's got something to say.
Yes.
And the reason I wanted Hugh's got something to say, there's a reason for that, is because I was in my mind going through my professional responsibility of promoting the segment and how that's going to sound on the morning leading up to your segment, Hugh. And we were going to do your segment at 8, and I was picturing myself saying over and over again in the morning, Hugh's got something to say at 8 o'clock. Hugh's got something to say at 8:15. It would have come out very fluid and very smooth. It would have been a very easy thing. And immediately I was told, Hugh doesn't like that title. Hugh wanted to know what the title is, and Hugh doesn't like that title because it makes it sound
Mitch,
like
now you're getting it wrong.
wants to say something.
No, Mitch, now you're getting it wrong. Because Thursday I had the conversation with Hugh. I explained the segment. Then he asked me what it's called, and then I told him it's Hugh's got something to say, and he said okay. Then I sent that email. Then on Saturday, Hugh called me back and said he didn't like the title.
That's different than what Mitch just said.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said Mitch just got it wrong.
Here.
I
have a new phone.
I have an email that says you'll be happy to know that Hugh's first reaction
Yes.
was, what's the title? Wanted to know what the title
But that's wrong. The email's wrong.
But that's not wrong.
I have the call log right here.
Yeah, Hugh, that was Thursday night.
Can we go back?
Slick.
Yeah.
Do I have your permission to go back to Hugh's got something to say? Because that's what I'd like the title to be, because it really comes flying off my tongue.
First, let me tell the story, okay?
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you think anybody's interested in this? But go ahead.
Well, you're the one who brought it up.
Well, no, I just wanted to talk about yesterday.
Do we want to make a list of the topics that you discussed that we're not really sure?
No. If you want to get something off your chest, go ahead.
I'm just saying. So he called me.
Yeah.
He called me at 7:10 on July 27th,
okay.
and then at 7:15.
Okay.
On July 27th.
Okay.
We
That's
discussed
when we
it then. Then Scott Holt, a friend of mine.
Who? How did he get involved?
I'm just telling you, this is verification. We can call Scott.
I don't know who Scott is.
So we're at a Washington State football camp, and he says, "Yeah, I heard a promotion about Hughes got something to say." I said, "What? That's not the title of it." He said, "Yeah, Hughes got something to say." And I picked up the phone at 1:52, and I called him. I said, "Slick, I thought it was what's on Hughes' mind," because that's originally what you said.
No, what's on Hughes' mind had never been uttered or discussed as a title.
Yeah. Well, Hughes got something to say.
Hughes got something to say. And you asked me, when I explained to you on Thursday in that 7:15 conversation,
had a reaction to
your first question to me was,
what's the name do I not have your permission to call it Hughes got something to say? Is it really that going to bother you that much? Hughes got something to say.
It does sound. Will you agree? It sounds different.
Yes, but it doesn't sound.
It sounds like I've got this burning desire.
Well, we'd like to present it that way. Is that okay?
Well,
it's it's theater of the mind. We're trying to sell the show here. Hughes got something to say.
Different, but okay.
Hughes got something to say at 8:00. You got something to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
I hope you have something to say.
Well, that's not how it was originally.
It's
not how it is.
What I was thinking driving in was, so we come up with this idea, and I think it's going to be great. I don't want to know the idea. You're on board, whether you're on board with the title or not. That's neither here nor there. And I'm excited for the first edition. And we get to it yesterday. Hughes got something to say, or in yesterday's case, what's on Hughes' mind? And you started talking about Malik McDowell, and you were passionate about it. You were talking about Malik McDowell and what they're going to miss from him, why they drafted him in the first place from a kind of football ease, from a hardcore football sense.
You didn't like that.
No, I did. And you went through the technique and what he is and why they love him so much and why they made the comment.
What he did at Michigan State.
What he did at Michigan State, and the comment of we've been looking for a guy like this for years to draft, and you went through all that, and it was good. It was good. And that was during the segment, What's on Hughes' Mind, which is now going to be called Hughes Got Something to Say. And then at 9:00, you look at me like we go on the air, and you look at me and you said, "You know what? I've been holding back on this. I want to tell you how I really feel about this." And you go through this beautiful, award-winning set of comments about, and this is what I loved about, and you should really tell it again, about how you feel about a guy who's got the God-given gift that was given to Malik McDowell, the size, the quickness, the weight, and how many guys that you came across in your college in your NFL career who never got that gift. And we're in and out of the league, and we're struggling to put a meal on a table. And this guy was given that, and he craps it away potentially by getting on an ATV, potentially without a helmet 2 weeks before training camp. And you went through this beautiful thing, and in my eyes, I was looking at you like, this is what Hughes Got Something to Say is supposed to be. Where were you at 8:00?
Well, I was thinking about what's on my mind instead of what I got to say.
You got 2 minutes. You got 90 seconds. Give us the 90-second version of what you said at 9 a.m. yesterday.
I've given it a lot of thought through the years. It's the most fascinating topic in the planet is whether there's a creator of the universe and of life on prebiotic Earth. I don't want to get into all that, but from a very scientific standpoint, I've come to the conclusion I do believe there's a creator. And I do believe that Malik McDowell, when you're a journeyman like me and you've been around I wear out my welcome after a couple of years. People finally realize I can't play and I'm on to the next team, right? But I played around a lot of great players. I played with 93 Pro Bowl players. I saw a list, but checkbox. Well, I also saw hundreds of players get cut. And it is a devastating, shattering experience for young men in their early 20s, late 20s who, may have played a year or never even made the team. And it's been their dream since they were a small child. And to watch these dreams, realize they take those shoulder pads off, they're never going to play again. And now they got to go in the real world. And, guys that are really talented guys, 6'2" guys that are 295 pounds, that's a really big dude if you see him walking around in a mall. But he's not big enough to play in the National Football League. And grown men cry. Grown men cry and have to, and because they just don't have the God-given talent. And Malik McDowell has been given more talent as John Schneider. Go back and listen to the press conference. Listen to the talent that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so with it wasn't just the ATV. It's all the questions about why is his motor going half speed. I watched the tape. I watched the Indiana game, and I go, dude, why are you just standing around and not making a play? And for pro personnel people to say it's the worst interview we've had in 20 years. They had two different people say that and say he is the definition of the entitled athlete. So it's that, and even Snyder questioned his motor. It's that, coupled with now the experience that we're living through yesterday with his absence due to an ATV, that led me to think, dude, how do you not appreciate the God? You're 6'6", you have quick feet, you have the strength, you're a high cut athlete.
Yeah.
That people would crave to have that type of athleticism, and you're squandering it for yourself and your team. And so, right at that moment, it really bothered me.
And you know what?
Yeah.
That's what Hughes got something to say.
Okay, all right.
That's exactly Slickhawk. Was that not exactly when I was in that room with the janitor and the engineer and Rich Moore and Dick Fain and Slickhawk? Was that not what he just did right there? Was that not exactly what I wanted to get from him on a daily basis?
Well, I don't remember a janitor, but yeah.
Yes. That's Hughes got something to say right there.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
And you were standing here yesterday watching, and things were going through your mind as you were watching the practice, the second practice of training camp. Day number 2, you were watching certain personnel groups. You were watching certain guys. You were looking at physiques of guys. You were looking at heights of guys. I don't know what was going through your mind. I was standing behind you, but a lot was going through your mind. And I want some of that. Right. I want some of that.
All right.
I want Hughes got something to say. What's on Hughes' mind? At 8 o'clock today, Eddie Lacy at 7 o'clock. We will be joined right there, and it could get very interesting with the much talked about Luke Joeckel is going to be our guest. And I think that could be a very interesting interview. I hope he's a good sport because I'm coming at him.
Good sport.
I'm coming at him. Right. I'm coming at Luke Joeckel about Pro Football Focuses and ratings. I am coming at Luke Joeckel.
Zing goes the radio
show. I'm going to find out how he feels about that stuff. I'm going to feel, I got Tom Cable on my right telling me nobody in the NFL played left guard better than Luke Joeckel, and I got Pro Football Focus on my left telling me he's one of the worst starting offensive line. Luke, where's the truth? Is it somewhere in the middle? Where is it? I want to know from Luke Joeckel how he feels when he hears those types of rating systems and people say that. I want to know from Luke Joeckel how many offers he had. I want to know, were there 3 offers? Yeah. Everybody's talked about what is it, $7.25 million guaranteed contract? I want to know from the horse's mouth. Was there a long line for Luke Joeckel's services in the free agency, or was there 1 or 2 teams? And I want to know from Luke Joeckel's mouth if nobody played left guard better during the NFL season last year, why didn't how about the Jaguars? Did they want to bring you back? Why do you think they didn't want to bring you back if they didn't want to bring? I got questions for Luke Joeckel, and I hope he's a good sport.
This could be Jim Everett and Jim Romo.
Oh, no, I'm not going to be antagonistic like Jim Rome was. Don't call me Chrissy again. Don't call me Chrissy again.
When you tell him that PFF says he's one of the worst players in the league, hey, Slick, let's hope this desk is battened down.
I'm going to be very respectful when I ask the question.
All right.
I'm going to be very respectful. Maybe I won't ask the question. Now you got me scared. He's going to come after me. Luke Jokel is going to join us. Ryan Divis is going to join us. What's on Hugh's mind? Great debates. Poll question. Chance to win Cardinals Seahawks. New Year's Eve 50-yard line seats. We got a lot on our day number 2 from Seahawks training camp at the VMAC on 950 KJR. Let's get it started. Plus, Mariners win. Mariners come from 4-0 down to win 6-4 to go one game up on 500 in a very exciting baseball game yesterday. The
Morning Montage with Mitch in the Morning.
Oh, my goodness! Brought to you by Washington's Lottery. Visit walottery.com.
Morning Montage time. Hugh Breedlove-Millen is here. We're at the VMAC, the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, where apparently it's going to be a hot day today. Hot day. Scorcher. Florida weather today. Little Florida weather today.
No.
No?
Might be Florida heat.
Who was that? You?
Yeah, it's not going to be Florida.
Not nearly as humid.
No humidity.
Yeah.
Too bad. We're missing the humidity.
What do you mean too bad?
We like sticky in Florida. We like sticky and hot.
No, you don't.
We like humid, hot.
No, you don't.
You know, all you.
No, that explains a lot.
That's for the tough at heart, for the brave at heart. You know, none of you wusses that want no humidity with your heat.
All right.
Okay.
I'll agree to that point. I won't agree that you Floridians want humidity.
We want humid.
If you had your choice.
We want sticky and pasty and gross.
No, that's what you get. It's not what you want.
All right, montage time. Seahawks at 7 coming up in about 28 minutes. We'll hear from Greg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune on day 2 notes, news and notes from here at training camp. Very interesting stuff going on. You're not going to want to miss it. Also, remember, a chance is coming today. Every day that we're here, a chance is coming to win 50-yard line seats to see the Cardinals and Seahawks on the final day of the regular season. Sunday, I think it's a Sunday, New Year's Eve, final game, game number 16, to decide it all. And you can win 50-yard line seats just by participating on the radio program. Here's the way it sounded deep in the heart of Texas.
Line drive over the head of Chu. Scoring is Gamble. Flying behind him is Segura. In the second, out is Cano. And the pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Game over. Mariners win 6-4. What a terrific W it is here to start this road trip. Edwin Diaz for the close.
If I said to you, Hugh Millen, if you were a Disney writer, if you were some sort of a creator of how a baseball game should end, what would be the best way a baseball game should end? What would you say? If you could decide how a baseball game would end, how would it end?
I would say I'm going to just go with the backyard kids fantasy.
Home run?
I would say a walk-off home run on a 3-2 count.
Okay.
How about a walk-off grand slam?
I think a lot of people would love that. Your team down 3 guys on base, 2 outs, 2 strikes.
Yeah. Why reinvent the wheel on this, Mitch?
This is easy, right?
Yeah.
Not for me.
A walk-off grand slam.
Not for me.
Okay.
I'll take what happened last night.
No, you won't.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
100.
I can tell you this: more people are going to be talking about my game than your game.
Yes, absolutely. I'll still take what happened. 100 miles an hour with a great hitter at the plate who swings and misses, swings out of his shoes and misses, and on the screen it goes 100 miles an hour in red, and the guy pumps his fist and everybody comes out to the mound. I'll take that. I understand I'm in the minority. I'm happy to be in the minority. You know, I've been in the minority all my whole life there, Hugh Breedlove. I'll take that. That's the way it ended. That was Root Sports and Simsy on the call.
How many guys were on base?
Nobody.
Okay.
Nobody. He came in 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 100 mile an hour. And here's what's great about it. He hadn't thrown a 100 mile an hour pitch the whole inning. The first one that he threw was strike 3, out 3, swing and a miss. He reared back and just hummed it by him as the Mariners go one game over 500 and still very much in the thick of the wild card race.
Yeah. I think
Mariners.
The most shocked I've ever been by an outcome when Kirk Gibson hit that home run. I know it was only game 1 of the World Series, but he limped up, it was Eckersley, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and when he limped up there, It was a Saturday night before a game, and Tim Green, your Syracuse buddy, he and I were watching that game. We were roommates, and I can just remember just audibly just yelling out like didn't Jack Buck say, "I can't believe what I just saw"? I mean, we were kind of even before at some point. I think one of us said, "Can you imagine if he actually parked this thing?"
And he did.
And so that's the most stunned I've ever been by a baseball outcome.
And you were very. God, were you the only two roommates in that room?
Well, you only get one roommate.
One roommate, yeah. Boy, you were outmanned in that room.
Oh, with him.
You were outmanned. You were outmanned by the Syracuse boy in that room.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. All right, Cam Chancellor wants to stay here for life. Here he is.
Yeah, I think it's been positive on both ends, and hopefully it get done any time now. But I feel like it's been positive on both ends. Both sides been very productive, been working together, and just waiting to see what's happening.
Eddie Lacy on the read option yesterday talked a little bit about it.
I mean, I ran pretty much everywhere I was at, but I mean, it's comfortable for me. It gives you multiple options, and I'm good at decision making, so it just fits me.
Roger Goodell explains why Colin Kaepernick isn't being blackballed by the league.
Are you concerned about the perception, at least with some, that he's been blackballed by the league?
Well, he can't be, because we're not. And this is the clubs are making those individual evaluations. They make the determination whether they think they can help win, and that's true with any player. And so that obviously, everyone's aware of the fact of his protest last year, and that's something that individual clubs will either weigh or not weigh. But I think they all want to get better.
Where does Jamal Adams play, Slickhawk? Safety Jamal Adams.
Oh,
he's the first-round draft choice out of Michigan, right? Where did he get drafted? It says on my sheet, safety Jamal Adams, talking about concussion, says he loves football so much, he'd be okay if he
was
died
out of
on
LSU. He's with the Jets.
Oh, LSU. That's right. What did I say? Michigan? That's wrong. He's with the Jets. Here he is.
I can speak for a lot of guys that play the game. We live and breathe, and this is what we're so passionate about. Literally, if I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally, I would be at peace, and that's not a lie. Like, it's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team, and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football.
Let's get a couple of baseball highlights in from last night, other than the Mariners. Real quickly, Aaron Judge is at it again.
Swung on and hit in the air to deep left. Hit is high. Hit is far. It is gone. A Judgian blast. Aaron Judge drills to the back end of the grandstand in left center. All rise. Here comes the Judge. Now Aaron Judge hits one a fur piece to left field, and the Yankees take a 5-1 lead.
They'd win 7-3 over Detroit. Gio Gonzalez had a no-hitter into the ninth for the Nationals.
Pitch to Gordon, a swing and a line drive into center field, a base hit. On a slow curveball at 73 miles an hour, Gordon lines it into left center field.
Lines it into left center.
No-hit bid of Gio Gonzalez comes to an end.
And we'll do one more. Jake Marisnick with 2 home runs for Houston, who beat the Rays 14-7 in a football
And Marisnick
score.
hits this one high in the air and deep to left field down the line. Dickerson giving it a look, and that ball is gone onto the train tracks. Jake Marisnick with his second home run of the game, and the Astros lead is 11-2.
There you go. Let's take out our handy-dandy Seattle Times sports section. Ryan Divish will be with us at 8:15. Sorry, 8:30. Luke Jokel's going to be with us at 8:15. What's on Hugh's mind, or Hugh's got something on his mind. We've got Eddie Lacy. You're going to hear from Eddie Lacy. The Seahawks at 7:21 minutes. A chance to win 50-yard line seats to the final game of the season. The home game against the Cardinals is coming. Well, let's take out our handy-dandy Seattle Times and do some figuring in the wild card race. The Seattle Mariners are now 2.5 games back in the wild card race. Today with Erasmus Ramirez on the mound against TBD. I kind of like the fact that the Rangers were trading off pieces, Slickhawk, yesterday before the deadline.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Helps us out. Thanks
I
for
like
shipping off you, Darvish.
Yeah, but I like it from more of a psychology standpoint. I'm thinking about this from a psychology standpoint. The Rangers kind of deciding to wave the flag on the season and sending off popular players at the deadline puts them in kind of an interesting state, very beatable state, mental state in the next couple of days. Let's hope the Mariners can take advantage of that. Hugh Breedlove Millen is by my side. Day number 2 of the VMAC, 20 minutes away from the Seahawks at 7. We'll talk to you about what happened on that practice field yesterday. You're going to want to miss. You're not going to want to miss it next on 14 minutes away from 7 o'clock, and that means the Seahawks at 7 every day, all the way through the football season. Greg Bell, Tacoma News-Tribune, out here from beginning to end, gavel to gavel coverage. The Virginia Mason Athletic Center is where we sit. It's day number 3 for them, day number 2 for us. Hugh Millen is here. It's going to be a hot, sunshine-filled day today at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. Practice will begin shortly after we finish on the air here. We're going to visit with Luke Jokel at 8:15. Ryan Divish will be with us at 8:30. Eddie Lacy we're going to hear from in our next segment. Right after Greg Bell finishes, we're going to hear from Eddie Lacy, who is probably the most talked about acquisition. Now, Malik McDowell has been talked about a lot, but Eddie Lacy, let's just put it this way, it'll be very interesting. I think we have debated, Slickhawk and Dick Fain, and I've jumped in a little bit, we have debated Eddie Lacy from the moment it was rumored that Eddie Lacy was coming to Seattle, because there was the Adrian Peterson idea, there was the Jamal Charles idea. Yeah. At the same time, Marshawn Lynch was thinking about coming back and going to the Raiders, even though that wasn't, a possibility here. Just the whole state of the running game last year, and Eddie Lacy being productive when he was in shape at Alabama and for the Packers, but wasn't in shape. What I've said all along is, and I hope to visit with Eddie Lacy, and I don't mean this, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I just wonder aloud, a guy who's going on interviews to protect his financial future. He's going on interviews, the most important time of his life. He's going from team to team, going on interviews, selling himself, and he's 270-something pounds. Like, if you were ever going to be vain and say, I got to look good, I got to be in a nice suit, I got to be in shape, I got to look good, I got to feel spry, I got to project energy and fitness. If you were ever going to be in a good place physically, it would be when you're going on interviews for your free agent future in the NFL. And I was like, God, how much control, how much does he want this if he's showing up at interviews 275 pounds?
Well, you look at people who put their house on the market. Some guys, they get new carpet, they paint the walls, and they do some landscaping, they spruce it up, and then they put it on the market. Right? But there's house flippers know this. There's some people who list a house and they don't bother to do a damn thing to clean that thing up. It looks like hell, and then it's just like, hey, what you see is what you get.
Right.
And then you gotta in your mind's eye, you gotta like the bones of the house, and you gotta say, you know what? I see something in that house. A little nick, a little nip here, a little tuck there.
Yeah.
This could be quite a house. So that's what Eddie Lacy, maybe he had a dapper suit that just kind of hung loosely.
But I want to hear the prospective owner that says to the house, I'll tell you what, house, you show up in my office and get on and fix yourself up, and we'll give you 3 or 4. Today's one of those days, by the way. Today's August 1st. He's on the scale today. $55,000. $55,000 is in play here for today if he hits I watched him yesterday. It's really the first time that I've looked at him extensively, and he did not, to my eye, look as big as I thought he was going to be. Now, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Maybe I was out there thinking, where's that big messy Eddie Lacy? And then I was like, wait a second, he's not all that big. He didn't seem all that big.
Yeah, he looks like he's getting better, doesn't he? And it's kind of tough because he's wearing some loose clothing under his jersey, and he's wearing shorts over tights. So it's hard to do a little bit of a body profile on him. But I'll say this, we could analyze this and get into numbers and PFF ratings and all this. I can just tell you that he had a little over 1,200 yards his rookie year.
Yeah.
And, in that offense with Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to be an 1,800-yard back. And I'll just say the eyeball test, just the eyeball test. He was a guy, and I remember him playing against Seattle. I'd have to go back and see all the dates, but I can remember saying, this guy this guy is an elite back. And I don't want to say the word scare, but as a Seahawks fan, I mean, I'm close to using the word scare. Like, wow, this guy scares me. This guy can really tilt the game in the Packers' favor and against the Seahawks. And there's not every team has a running back like that. I had this sense that this is a top 8 or 10 back in this league when he was at his best. It may have been his rookie year. I'd have to go back and I'm not even sure if I looked at all the game logs and you could show me the list. Well, he played against Seattle on this date and Seattle on this date and Seattle on this date. I'm not even sure, Mitch, whether or not I could tell you which day I had that impression. But I can remember being, watching him and saying, no, this dude.
And then what happened? He ate.
Well, and then, yeah.
He went to get Chinese food. He ordered in Chinese.
Oh, God, he just loved the peanut sauce, and
And that was the end?
That was it.
Do guys typically get back into shape and then
it can happen.
Resume their career, resurrect that scared feeling that other teams might have watching Eddie Lacy run? I was interested yesterday when I asked you about your Seahawks fan perspective of this as a guy who apparently went to the first ever home game of the Seahawks. I asked you yesterday.
I think it was 30-24.
Just because
you look that up.
Just because you
Cardinals.
know the score doesn't matter. That doesn't.
I was there.
That doesn't prove to me that you were there.
True.
There's a way to look at a newspaper.
You're right.
What are you trying to do? You think I'm softy?
All right.
Okay.
All right. So
anyway,
you think I'm gonna just sit here and lie to you and tell you that was at the game?
Of course I believe you, but I just like giving you a little crap.
You never had Dolphins season tickets.
I never had. Well, I do now, or I did kind of do.
You didn't.
I
never went to any Dan Marino games.
Oh, okay. I see what you're trying to do there. I was curious about your saying as a Seahawks fan, you'd like to see him get in shape and carry the ball 10, 12 times a game. I was like, 10, 12 times a game? Wouldn't the perfect world scenario for a guy that big be 20 a game? Wouldn't the perfect world scenario, he averages 4.6, 4.7, and as the game gets older, his physicality starts taking a toll on defenses, and he's better in the fourth quarter than he is in isn't that the perfect world scenario? You gave me 10 to 12 carries. That's not much.
In the perfect world scenario, I'm going to go home today, and I'm going to open up the door to my 17-year-old's room, and the carpet is going to be spotless. The bed is going to be made meticulously like a
with
Navy
corners?
ensign.
With hospital corners?
Oh yeah.
Do you like
9 inch?
Do you know how to do a hospital corner? You don't know how to do a hospital corner.
I do. Yeah. And thank you for your service. And every book's gonna be in the right place. Okay, guess what? He's lazier than that. So, you know what? It's going to be an accomplishment if there's just not some, pizza, ground into the carpet. And it's just, a little bit of a mess. I mean, Seattle, of course, Pete Carroll would love him to be inclined to be at 234. I bet 234 would be his dead nuts perfect weight. Maybe I'll go as high as 238.
Yeah.
Slightly under 240.
He's not going to be that.
But he ain't going to be that.
So
what do you want to talk about? Realistic blue sky or fantasy blue sky?
10 to 12
you tell
carries.
me.
10 to 12 carries.
If he's at 238, let's give him 23 carries. He ain't going to be at 238. He's going to be at 247. Give him 10
to 12. 10 to 12 carries. All right. The rumor is that Malik McDowell is coming today here to the VMAC. We'll ask Greg Bell if that's true or not. It's the Seahawks at 7 on 950 KJR next. And
airing it deep, looking for Curse in the end zone. The pass is juggled, and it is caught.
Kaepernick is in trouble. Ball's out. Recovered by Bennett.
Your home for the 12th man in the NFL is live from the VMAC for Seahawks training camp.
This 12th man factors in, no doubt.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Yes. 7 o'clock from the VMAC on 950 KJR. About to hear from Greg Bell, the Tacoma News Tribune. It's what we call the Seahawks at 7 every day. Every single day, all the way through the season. The Seahawks at 7 on 950 KJR. Hugh Breedlove Millen is here. It's our second day of camp coverage from the VMAC. Training camp coverage, counting down to kickoff to the NFL season, is brought to you by NBA Health Trust, building better benefits. We'll hear from Greg Bell. We'll hear from Eddie Lacy. Don't forget the Daily Schnoz this week and the next couple of weeks are training camp visits and fantasy football league advice, folks, if that's what you want from the Daily Schnoz. We're going training camp to training camp. What did we do yesterday, Slickhawk? Denver and Oakland?
Yes, we did.
Are we staying in the AFC West today,
yes,
or are we jumping around? Okay,
no,
we're staying in the
West.
AFC West. All right, news here. We'll get it to Greg Bell in a second, and he'll tell us about Malik McDowell reportedly coming to the VMAC today. Cam Chancellor is optimistic he will finish Slickhawk his career as a Seahawk.
Yeah, I think it's been positive on both ends, and hopefully it get done any time now. But I feel like it's been positive on both ends. Both sides have been very productive, been working together, and just waiting to see what's happening.
The Seahawks also bring back veteran linebacker Mike Morgan. We'll talk to Greg Bell here in a second about that as well. Mariners over 500 after winning a thriller in Texas.
Line drive over the head of Chu. Scoring is Gamble. Flying behind him is Segura. In the second, out is Cano.
Root Sports on the call. Simsy on the call. The two-run double or the two-run single that was tried to stretch into a double in the ninth wins it. Great job. Can I just mention David Phelps here, Slickhawk, for a second? My God.
1 2/3 inning.
Did he not strike out the side in the eighth?
On 10 pitches. It was
amazing.
It was one pitch away from an immaculate inning.
In a tie game, 10 pitches, strikes out the side in the eighth to keep it tied. Yep. Robbie Cano wins it in the ninth with a double. Sugar comes in, throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball by Rougned Odor for the game's final out. Mariners win over 500, 2.5 back of the wild card. Game 2 of the series with the Rangers today. Activity around baseball yesterday. Yu Darvish traded to the Dodgers for prospects. Sonny Gray goes to the Yankees for prospects. Francisco Liriano goes to the Astros. Red Sox get Mets closer Addison Reed. The Mets are promoting their 21-year-old phenom, number one prospect in baseball, Ahmed Rosario, a shortstop for tonight's game for the Mets. Kyle Lewis hits a home run for the Mariners' Modesto team. He's hitting .333 with 4 homers in his first 36 at-bats for Modesto. He's feeling healthier. M's fans, cover your ears. Tyler O'Neill did it again last night. Single, double, homer, 4 RBIs. He's got 3 homers and 14 RBIs in his first 9 games as a member of the Cardinals organization. And in a story that makes you feel a little bit better, the Cubs organization presented a 2016 World Series ring to Steve Bartman 14 years after the ill-fated foul ball incident, which I've called on this show, in my opinion, the worst and most unfair sports story not involving illness or death or physical problems in the 40 years that I've been watching as a sports fan. Luke Jokel at 8:15 live from here at the VMAC. Ryan Divish is going to be on the show. We're going to hear from Eddie Lacy here in just a few moments. But now it's the Seahawks at 7 with Greg Bell of the Tacoma News-Tribune. You can hit the music there.
Very happy with how things have turned out through the offseason and getting our guys together.
Live from the VMAC.
Wilson going to run. Diving for the end zone. He's in.
This is the Seahawks at 7 with Mitch in the morning.
Touchdown, Seahawks.
All these fancy schmancy newfangled. You know, you play those things, Slick.
Yeah.
And it puts the pressure on Greg Bell. You know, he normally just comes onto the music. But when he starts hearing all these fancy schmancy opens,
that's legit.
He starts getting nervous. You can just I can sense the nervousness, Greg, on the other side of the phone here. It's coming
exactly. It's August 1st. You guys are actually trying to get me in regular season form. That's okay though. All right. I can do that.
It was good to see your face yesterday and not just hear
too.
your voice.
Thank you.
Greg Bell of the Tacoma News-Tribune, Seahawks at 7. Let's start with storyline number 1. It looks like it's been a quick turnaround, at least for a visit. It seems as if, reportedly, the big man who was on the ATV a couple of weeks ago and then in the hospital, the big man might be coming to the VMAC today, reporting to work. What do you know about this story? What do you hear about this story? And what does this all mean in terms of the availability or lack thereof of Malik McDowell, Greg Bell?
Well, there's no doubt that judging by Malik McDowell's statement after the Seahawks announced his accident, there was no doubt the urgency turned up immediately, and for him to get in front of the Seahawks doctors so they could see what his injuries truly are. And that's really the step we're at now. It's not he's reporting to camp to get back on the field or to practice. No, he's going first to get back into the fold of the team that signed him. And second, now that he's here, when he gets into the building, the team doctors will then look at him and assess what the injuries are, how that relates to the possibility of him playing. We're still at step 2 here. Step 1 was his injury and recovery in Michigan. Step 2 is now for the Seahawks doctors to assess him, to actually put their eyes on him, to have their own opinion on what his injuries are. For now, it's been coordinating with physicians in Michigan. So to say he's reporting to the team is different than Mike Morgan reporting to the team yesterday after re-signing, obviously. There's a big medical step here to take, but there's no doubt that McDowell felt the Seahawks' urgency to get him out here so they could finally have an opinion, a medical opinion on him to know where to go from here.
Right. Greg Bell, the Tacoma News Tribune, is with us. Since the last time you and I visited at 9 o'clock or 9:30 yesterday, any more details? Anything new that I don't know that's happened, that's come out since, let's say, 10 a.m. yesterday in terms of what happened? Was he wearing a helmet? The nature or the severity of the injuries? Anything more, or are we still kind of left to guess on that?
We're still left for speculation, Mitch. Nothing new, although I am encouraged for his health's sake that he can fly. I mean, if he's a concussion, a serious concussion, facial lacerations, usually you don't throw guys on planes with those. So the fact that, I mean, he may have those, but the fact that they're not as acute or as tenuous that he can't get on a plane and fly at 35,000 feet for 4 hours is a good sign. And so he getting to Seattle from Detroit means it's not as critical as if it happened a day or two ago. And as Pete Carroll said, it happened at least 2 weeks ago. So time has healed him at least enough for him to fly.
Any chance that they'll put him in front of the media today?
I would be surprised.
Okay.
That will come eventually. What can happen, though, now is after the doctors speak, the Seahawks could quite possibly have their doctors, or at least Pete Carroll speaking for what the doctors told him. But now the Seahawks have an informed opinion. The assumption is now that Malik McDowell's family would permit them to speak more freely of his medical condition now that he's under club supervision and observation. So while it may not be McDowell himself speaking, we may have more information in the next day or two that is way more informed and direct from the Seahawks.
Other news items, Greg Bell, the Seahawks at 7. We're about to hear from Eddie Lacy in a moment about why he gets out of shape, favorite type of food is, and all that good stuff. Any other news items from yesterday? You got Mike Morgan, the return of Mike Morgan. What does that mean to you? And then I think I heard that C.J. Prosise, who was ill and missed the previous day, might have showed up yesterday to be on the practice field. What do you know of those two stories?
I didn't see Prosise, and there was some debate among the reporters whether he was actually out there or not. I never saw him. I think he remained ill, stomach flu, which pretends that it's not that serious. But it does raise the reminder that the guy was hurt from the middle for the first rookie training camp last year and stayed hurt through most of the season. He needs to stay on the field. He's a dynamic talent that they really want to use in the offense. He needs to stay on the field. Mike Morgan's return, Mitch, is one, solidifies the special teams, which they've added to quite a bit this offseason. They've made a concerted effort to, even the strong side linebacker candidates that they did already have in here, brought in this offseason, Terrence Garvin and Michael Wilhoit, special teams experienced guys. DJ Alexander, another linebacker they just traded Kevin Pierre-Louis for over the weekend from Kansas City, a Pro Bowl special teams player. They have devoted resources, trades, and re-signings to bolster the special teams. Morgan goes into the mix for competition with that strong side outside linebacker job that Morgan had last year, and then he got injured and had the sports hernia. He had to go back to Philadelphia and have surgery. He ended up only starting 3 games last year. Garvin started on the first day of training camp at strong side linebacker in base defense. Michael Wilhoit, the former 49er starter, started there yesterday. I keep downplaying this strong side linebacker competition, Mitch, because they're only in it about 1/3 of the time, at least the last 2 years. They've been in nickel so much that, to me, the 5 defensive backs and 2 linebackers set is the much more pertinent to the season competition. And So far, Nico Thorpe remains the right cornerback in nickel when Jeremy Lane goes inside, and Shaquille Griffin has so far through 2 days of camp been number 2. Okay. The third thing I've seen yesterday, it struck out. I saw it a little bit on Sunday. I really noticed it yesterday. Is Alex Collins is faster, much faster. The running back from Arkansas. Last year he was 217 pounds. At least listed that. He might have been heavier. He's listed at 210 right now. The coaches wanted him to lose weight. He has. He is much faster when he gets the ball and turns upfield. He did it on a catch yesterday and actually had Bobby Wagner chasing him to the goal line, and Wagner never caught him. If he's faster, that's what they wanted from him last year, and he becomes a more prominent member of that running back corps.
How? How does he become a more prominent? If everybody stays healthy with the 3 guys and C.J. and that's a big if with C.J. Prosise, I know, and Thomas Rawls. But if Eddie Lacy, who's going to have a weigh-in today, is what they want him to be, and Thomas Rawls and C.J. Prosise do what they need to do, how does Collins become a factor in the running game? Greg?
Well, he would be number 4, and every NFL team has shown you need about 5 running backs. I mean, we were in Tremaine Pope territory last year when they had to bring him back after the Jets waived him after he did a big summer with the Seahawks. They churn through running backs. It's a position of injury. It's a position of specialty. You'll see the Seahawks like to take certain drives and put running backs in just for one drive. They did with Prosise last year. Heck, they did with Alex Collins in the New England game, and then he fumbled in his only carry, and they benched him for a few weeks after that. He would move up the hierarchy, and he'd move ahead of guys like Mike Davis, the former San Francisco 49er, Chris Carson, the rookie running back who we talked about yesterday, looks like Ricky Waters physique-wise from the draft pick from Oklahoma State. If Collins is as fast and can maintain his speed and doesn't fumble like he had a little bit of problem early in his career at Arkansas and a little bit last year, then he moves up to ahead of all those guys. But they're going to need 4 or 5 running backs to get on the field this year.
All interesting stuff from Greg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. We'll see you out here in a little bit of time. Thank you very much.
Sir.
Greg Bell, Tacoma News Tribune, every day at 7 a.m. with a little Seahawks at 7, wrapping up the day's top stories. Malik McDowell apparently is going to be here today. He's going to report. Whether we see him or not is another story altogether. Whether he's made available to the Seahawks media, to the media here who covers the Seahawks, is another story altogether. But one step at a time, and getting the big fella here and under Seahawks doctor's supervision is a big step nonetheless. All right, Eddie Lacy spoke. Today's a big day for Eddie Lacy. He can make $55,000 today if he steps on that scale and weighs the appropriate amount or less. Here he is with the media yesterday about where he spent most of his time.
I've just been here for the most part, outside of going back home to see my parents for their birthday. So everything's been all right.
Why'd you pick that particular exercise program?
Because I met with Tony Horton way back. I forget which Super Bowl weekend it was, and we had chemistry the first time we met, and I did that, so I figured why not go back to it. So it was like chemistry, and we did it before, so it was natural. It was normal to me.
What are the benefits to that, just compared to maybe other training and other stuff?
It's just total body workouts. Like when you play football, you bench press, you squat, like it's singled out workouts. But when you do stuff like that, it targets more than one area at one time. So it helps. Different.
How much have you felt different this camp just after all the workouts? Do you feel better coming in too?
I definitely feel better, but I mean, it's still a ways to go. And I still have a lot to learn. I'm still trying to get accustomed to the offense and, so I can continue to play natural or as natural as I know I can play. So, but everything's coming along pretty good.
How is the ankle?
My ankle's fine. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're 100% from the rehab for the ankle, or you still got a ways to go?
Probably got a little ways to go, but, I mean, I'm healthy enough right now to be able to go out and compete and, do what I have to do.
Were you nervous about throwing out the first pitch Friday night?
Yeah, I was actually sweating. I didn't know if I was going to make it to the plate or throw it over his head or to right field or something like that.
How did you feel like you did?
Not bad. Not bad at all. I got there. He didn't have to move too far.
Did you know Kendrick Lamar was here?
I had no idea he was here until he walked into the huddle. And I was like, whoa, who's that? And then you can see him, like, he has his hood on. It's like, oh, that's Kendrick. Didn't expect him to be too short, though.
Did you say anything?
He broke the huddle down and called Bobby up there, and then they broke it down together. It was kind of crazy. I guess they know each other. I have no idea. And then everybody put their hands up and, like, he disappeared. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like a magic trick.
What are the differences in this camp? I guess Kendrick Lamar will show up in green.
I guess one of the perks here, besides beautiful weather and great scenery and fans that come out every single day, is the fact that, Coach brings in different people, which I'm starting to learn now. I didn't know that at first. But, yeah, I mean, he brings in certain people. He plays music all the time. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere. You never know what kind of surprise you'll get.
Did you know that before you got there? Is that a reputation around the league?
I had no idea. I mean, I heard it was I know they play music and stuff all the time, which was cool to me because music helps. You don't really you focus on what you're doing, but you have like an outlet kind of to where like everybody's still high tempo. So I heard about that, but I didn't know about the surprise guests and stuff. Our basketball goes in everywhere around the building.
Have you been able to eat any China food?
I'll skip that question.
Do you feel like you're behind it all in terms of picking up the offense and the fact that you're still recovering from the ankle?
No, I think I'm behind everybody who's already been here because they've been here for so long. But I think I'm picking it up pretty good. I always ask questions, make sure before I get in I know what I'm doing, and it's starting to become more and more second nature.
What experience do you have with the zone read?
What?
With the zone read option?
I mean, I ran pretty much everywhere I was at. But, it's comfortable for me. It gives you multiple options, and I'm good at decision-making, so it just fits me.
How do you feel like you're meshing with some of the other running backs for all some of those guys?
How do I feel what?
Feel like you're meshing with the other running backs?
Oh, it's great. I mean, everybody gets along well. Nobody's trying to one-up anybody. We all hit our work. We all know that maybe we all won't be here, but, we build chemistry and we work together.
Is your weight going to be where they want it to be and where you want it to be?
It's going to be where it needs to be.
You mentioned some of the speakers that Pete brings in to talk to the team. Who stood out in that respect, whether it was someone in the spring or the summer, someone who's just...
Well, it's kind of just starting for me. This was the first person I met, that he's brought in since I've been here, so I'm still looking forward to who else he can bring out. Hopefully Lil Wayne one day.
You still have screws in a plate in the ankle or they pick that up?
Oh, no, that's stuck forever.
Do you feel that? Is that something you have to loosen up more than any other body part?
Nah, it's pretty normal now. I got the flexibility and stuff back, so it's pretty cool.
What's unique about Chad Moore?
Chad? Well, I mean, I spent a year with him in Green Bay my first year, and he's just a energetic guy. He knows what he wants, he knows how to get it, and he demands a lot out of us. And, you can't ask for no out of a coach. From drill to drill, you'll see him running, like, racing certain players. And, he's just fun, but at the same time, he gets down to business. And, that's what you want in a coach.
Eddie Lacy yesterday, his first go-around with the Seattle media, talking a little bit about – he was asked about Chinese food. He preferred not to answer that question. He's a big Chinese food fan and too big of a Chinese food fan, if you ask many people. Eddie Lacy's got himself into shape. He's got a weigh-in today. It's August 1st that he could make $55,000. Don't ask me what weight he's got to hit today. I have lost track.
250, I believe.
I'm not sure. 250 today?
Today's 250.
He's got to be 250 today, and he makes $55,000, Hugh. One quick comment from Hugh before we get to the Daily Schnoz. And the Daily Schnoz, while we're at the VMAC, is a little different. It's kind of a training camp to training camp. We're going to training camps around the NFL. We're going to hit all of them over the course of the next several weeks, and we're also allowed to ask a fantasy football league question of every training camp that we go to. One by one, we'll do that on the Daily Schnoz. Real quickly, with Hugh Millen here at the VMAC, before we get to the Schnoz, Mike Morgan re-signed yesterday. You heard Greg Bell say he downplays that role, that person, because that person's just not on the field very often these days in the NFL. They normally have two linebackers on the field. How important was it, in your mind, to get Mike Morgan back, and just talk a little bit about the role of that linebacker?
Well, when they had Bruce Irvin in there, he was a guy that had the athleticism. They might have felt less inclined to go with nickel. I mean, there are certain personnel groups that when a team throws out at you, you might be inclined to stay in base. For example, 11 personnel, which is one tight end, one running back, and then 3 receivers. A lot of teams will play nickel to that, but you can play base to that. Or you could have 20 personnel, 2 backs, no tight ends, 3 receivers. Bruce Irvin had the athleticism to get out there and play in space.
So he was on the field more often. They were in base more often. Well, how about now with Mike? Is Mike Morgan just a guy? Is Mike Morgan just a guy, or is he more than just a guy?
No, I think he's. Yeah, I mean, he's probably an average guy. What I like about the Mike Morgan signing is that you have a guy who's been in the system for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time.
A long time.
And so his floor of how he would play is sufficiently high.
Yeah.
So if he's going to get beat out, that means that it's somebody just a better player.
Yeah.
But I think Mike Morgan, again, because they're going to play more nickel with him than they did with Bruce Irvin, I think it's a good signing. Morgan probably had designs of going out there and making more money. He couldn't. And now, it's very competitive. They brought in a lot of guys there.
Yeah.
They're clearly trying to upgrade that, and that's a prime special teams position. You have to be good at special teams in that situation.
2 more NFL training camp visits on the Daily Schnoz plus Hugh's got something to say at 8 o'clock today, and I can't wait to hear what he's got for us. Luke Jokel is going to sit down with us at 8:15 on 950 KJR. And another chance, we'll introduce it to you at 7:45, another chance for you to win 50-yard line seats to the Cardinals-Seahawks game, final game of the season, New Year's Eve, game number 16, could be for all the marbles in the NFC West, and all you got to do is participate in our daily poll on 950.
This is the Daily Schnoz NFL Training Camp Edition.
Le'Veon Bell does have an understanding of when he will probably show up.
Look, it's complicated. It's a business decision.
Not only does he want to be the highest paid receiver, but the highest paid player in the league.
Powered by Michael's Toyota of Bellevue, where the service open 7 days a week. It's truly all about you at Michael's Toyota of Bellevue.
Live from the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, we're about to do our special training camp edition of Daily Schnoz. We're taking them one by one. We're going all around all the NFL to find out the storylines that are surrounding some of these NFL cities and training camps, plus getting a little fantasy football look at each particular city. We're coming up on 7:45 in 15 minutes when we want you to text us, Dear Show, ... You can text us about anything. One question in particular is the poll question. We're going to give you a chance to win Seahawks-Cardinals tickets. What will it be at 8:28 this morning, 8:30 this morning, when we ask you to call in and give us the answer to the question, Slickhawk, which is, how responsible do you hold Malik McDowell for his actions that got himself injured? Is he A, just a kid living his life, unfortunate accident, and that's all it is? Or is it B, does he violate, in your mind, some sort of an obligation, some sort of a responsibility to the Seattle Seahawks by getting on that ATV 2 weeks before his training camp? Is that a fair enough question?
Fair question.
Do you understand the question?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's a question that we will ponder, that we want listeners to text us at 49451. Is it A or is it B? A is just a kid living his life, a little unfortunate accident, and it's a good thing that he's not hurt more seriously. Or is it B, a breach of obligation and responsibility to the Seahawks a couple of weeks before Seahawks training camp, getting on that ATV and getting himself injured? Let's go to Los Angeles. Dan Woike of the Los Angeles Times, little Chargers camp look in. Dan, what's it like to have the Chargers in Los Angeles?
Different. I would say that, it's funny. 2 years ago, you're talking about NFL cities. Los Angeles wasn't one of them. And, now you've got two teams with training camp just miles apart from one another, getting ready this weekend to have to practice against each other. So, there's been pretty good excitement. The first day there were over 5,000 fans there, which I think people were pretty excited about that number. And then there wasn't a huge drop-off in their second day, even on a Monday morning. So we'll see what it's like today when they've got the pads on a little bit. But so far the response has been better than expected.
There was a story about their first-round draft choice, Mike Williams, being hurt. There seemed to be conflicting reports of how serious it was. What can you tell us about that, Dan?
I think the conflicting reports come from the fact that it's a lower back injury, and those are generally pretty difficult to kind of get a handle on. The team is hopeful that he will not need surgery. You could say surgery is currently not an option. They're rehabbing the injury. They're trying to strengthen the muscles around it, do some core work, and hopefully he'll be able to play with the injury. And you can do this. However, at any moment it can respond poorly, and his season could be over. So it is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B here on the kind of two sides of reporting. Luckily for the Chargers, at least, receiver is kind of a depth area for them, at least right now, in terms of Keenan Allen has looked fantastic, looked really good in OTAs, and his comeback had a huge day yesterday, playing with a lot of confidence right now. Tyrell Williams kind of exploded last year, Dontrell Inman. So they've got some guys there so they can afford to be a little patient, but obviously they'd way rather have him on the field.
Dan Woike, the Los Angeles Times, about to go to the Heritage Distilling text line at 49451, dear show, ... Dan, a couple of last ones before you go. It seems like the Chargers have been left for dead in the AFC West by the so-called experts. Everybody loves the Raiders. The Broncos are always seemingly a factor. Then you got the Chiefs. We're going to look into the Chiefs here in a second. Does this look like a 6-win team? Does it look like an 8-win team? What would you say from the first few days of training camp?
I mean, I think that they have a pretty high variance. There is certainly a scenario that I can see in which this team makes the playoffs.
Really?
Where,
right.
Yeah, I mean, after the last two seasons where they've been so poor in close games, really one of the worst teams, I think, in the last 20 years, and kind of, blowing fourth-quarter leads. They've been in position to win a lot of football games, and they've been decimated by injuries. A little better luck, a little better discipline late in games. Hopefully Anthony Lynn maybe is the guy that can kind of turn some of that stuff. But offensively, you look at that team, there's talent everywhere. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and you've got maybe the best pass rushing duo in the NFL, and Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. You have two all-pro cornerbacks, and Jason Verrett and Casey Hayward. Pretty good young linebackers. There's a lot to like.
Okay.
And obviously a name Gus Bradley, now coming back to be a defensive coordinator.
Sure.
I think there's reason for some optimism. But, you also can look at the schedule and say, in Dallas on Thanksgiving, a trip to New England, and 2 other trips to New York. I mean, this is a team that's going to log a lot of miles this year. And those East Coast games for West Coast teams are always tough.
All right, Dan.
They're going to play a bunch of them.
Dan, I don't normally ask fantasy football questions, but this is the time of the year where they make me.
Sure.
So, position players, who do I want on my team from the San Diego, sorry, I already did it. Who do I want on my team from the Chargers? Who might be some sleepers, position players that might be sleepers later in the draft?
I think from a sleeper standpoint, Tyrell Williams is a guy, had 1,000 yards receiving last year, should get even better looks with a healthy Keenan Allen. The 2 guys I really like on this team are Hunter Henry, the tight end, had a huge year last year. I don't know how much of a sleeper he is. I think he led all rookie tight ends in touchdowns. Really good, complete player. And they're going to do a lot, I think, with 2 tight end sets with him and Antonio Gates. And I like Melvin Gordon a lot this year. Coming off of nearly 1,000 yards last year after kind of a really disappointing rookie season. Anthony Lynn is a running backs coach. He loves to run the football. He was a running back in the NFL. I think this team is going to run the ball well. They've invested a lot in their offensive line. So I think that he could be a guy that has a really big year. The other guy that is kind of sleepy out there, if you're like a deep league, is Brandon Oliver's looked really good. And fantasy people might remember him, from like the Ryan Matthews injury days in San Diego, as a guy who would kind of come in and fill in and have some big games. He might be their number 2 back in kind of that Danny Woodhead role. Coming back off of an Achilles injury, he's looked very explosive, and he could maybe be a guy, but I would focus on Hunter Henry and Melvin Gordon.
All right, and of course Keenan Allen as well.
He's really good too.
Dan Woike, the Los Angeles Times. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your time. Chargers camp looking. The Chargers, who have some real talented players and could win some games, although a tough schedule, at least from the looks of it. 30 seconds away from another training camp look-in and some more fantasy football league stuff for you on 950 KJ.
It's not too late to sign up for the August 3rd tournament of the summer. The Tulalip Resort Casino, in support of the Snohomish Boys and Girls Club, is holding their annual golf tournament at Willows Run Golf Complex. Because of the high demand, the tournament has now bought out both courses, which is open some tee times. The 4-person scramble will include hole contests, lunch and dinner with a pig roast, brats, beers, and more. To sign up, email Don A. reach at TulalipResort.com or 425-754-6646. That's 425-754-6646 for the tournament.
Bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Flash.
The Daily Schnoz. Slickhawk is awaiting your text at 49451. I've just brought up the poll question of the day that Hugh Millen helped me phrase. How do you look with Malik McDowell scheduled to appear here at the VMAC today, maybe report for the first time? How do you view the Malik McDowell news? A, just an unfortunate accident involving a kid, a 20-year-old kid living his life, no big deal? Or B, some sort of a breach of responsibility to the Seahawks for getting on that ATV 2 weeks before his first ever training camp, and there is some real responsibility on McDowell's behalf. How do you view it, A or B? 49451. We'd like to hear from you on the Heritage Distilling text line. All right, Matt Derrick in Kansas City, ChiefsDigest.com. Tell us the storylines, the one or two storylines that are most being discussed involving Chiefs training camp, Matt.
Well, the number one thing here, as far as the fans are concerned, and even the team's concerned, is actually the backup quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is the story of camp. Everybody wants to see what he looks like. They want to see the arm, and they just want to see where he's at development-wise. And so far, in the first few days of camp, he's had some good moments. It's rough. He's a rookie. There's going to be some errant passes, and we've certainly seen those. He's still learning the offense, but you can see the athletic skills that made the Chiefs want to go get this guy. And working with Andy Reid as a quarterback's coach, it seems like a perfect fit for him. And so far, it's been interesting to watch.
How long will it be until we see him play on a football field? If all goes well for the Chiefs, it'd be years, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if everything goes well, you're not going to see him this year. This team has Super Bowl aspirations, and turning to a rookie quarterback, barring an injury, it's just not going to happen. Next year, it's a much more likely possibility. Alex Smith has a huge cap number for next year. There's some other guys. Justin Houston has a huge cap number. They've got a lot of salary issues for next season, and Alex Smith is certainly a possible cap casualty next year. And that's why, watching Mahomes' development this year is so important, because they may be ready to lean on him next year.
DJ Alexander, Matt, was acquired by the Seahawks. We're sitting at Seahawks training camp as we speak. We've been told he made the Pro Bowl last year as a special teams performer. I believe he's a 3-year man out of Oregon State. What more can you tell us about DJ Alexander and the football player that the Seahawks acquired late last week?
A very likable guy. Fans will really like him. He's very down to earth, very easy to work with. He's just a really nice guy all around. Special teams is absolutely where he's excelled. He made an impact immediately in the league. Like you mentioned, this is only his third season. He's already gone to the Pro Bowl as a special teams player, and he absolutely excels in that. Now, he struggled at times on the field as a linebacker. He's played inside here in the Chiefs 3-4. Last year was the first time that he really got some extended playing time when Derek Johnson went down. He started one game. The Chiefs did lose that game. Not sure you can necessarily blame it on him, but they lost the game to Tennessee that he started, and then the Chiefs went some other directions after that. He tackles well. He does. He just has not at this point showed the physicality that maybe he really needs on defense. But from a special team standpoint, he's a go-getter. Absolutely gets downfield. He makes tackles, hits people.
Right.
And he was a crowd favorite here.
Matt, I got 30 seconds. How about a fantasy football league thought on some skilled position players? Who do I want on my team from the Chiefs this year?
Chiefs players are always kind of scary to go after.
That's right.
Because it's a methodical offense. The Chiefs, they don't run a lot of plays. They run the clock down. But Travis Kelce is absolutely going to be one of the top 3 tight ends in the league. His numbers may even go up this year. Certainly expect to see him more involved in the red zone than he was a year ago. Tyreek Hill certainly looks positioned to break out even further this season than he did a year ago. He's going to be much more involved in the offensive side. You're probably going to see him rushing the ball too, so he's going to get a lot of touches on offense. And if you're looking for some sleepers, not a guy I would draft necessarily in the first few rounds, but Kareem Hunt, running back, rookie, has really impressed and showed some things this year. He's got great hands, so he's probably going to be involved a lot in the passing game, especially on third downs. And I can see as the season wears on that he's going to get more and more involved in the offense.
Got it. You're kind to come on with us. Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com, live from Chiefs training camp. Thank you very much in Kansas City. They're wrapping up at the Daily Schnoz at 7:42 on 950 KJR.
Well, that's the news. I'm out of here.
The Daily Schnoz, brought to you by Michael's Toyota of Bellevue on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
In 18 minutes, Hugh's got something to say. Hugh Breedlove Millen here from the VMAC, the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. We'll find out what's on Hugh's mind at 8 a.m. Also at 8:15, Luke Jokel makes his first ever appearance on the morning show. That ought to be interesting. 8:30, Ryan Divish. And at 8:30, we're gonna do the poll question. I didn't redo my sheet here. We're gonna do the poll question. Ryan Divish will be on at 8:45. But coming up next, your text on the Heritage Distilling text line. Slickhawk is standing by, taking them, 49451. Dear show, ... whatever's on your mind. And we'd like you to answer the question of how culpable. What's your thought on Malik McDowell and the story of the accident 2 weeks ago on the ATV? Is it A, just a 20-year-old kid living his life, unfortunate accident? Or B, a breach of obligation and responsibility 2 weeks before a training camp for a 20-year-old to get on an ATV and find himself injured at this juncture? How much blame do you place on Malik McDowell at 49451? We're also going to take phone calls, and everybody who calls in at the appropriate time on this subject, on this topic, will go into the drawing for the 50-yard line seats to see the Cardinals and Seahawks on New Year's Eve. Breaking news from here at the VMAC or on the Twitter of Josina Anderson of ESPN. Slickhawk, read it, please.
From the Twitter of Josina Anderson, Cam Chancellor has reached an agreement with the Seahawks for a contract extension. 3 years, $36 million. There's $25 million in guaranteed money.
3 years, $36 million, $25 million guaranteed. Just yesterday, Cam Chancellor said he's optimistic that something will happen before opening day of the season. Well, how about before the next day's practice for Cam Chancellor? 3 years, $36 million, according to reports from ESPN, $25 million guaranteed. There you go. There's the news of the morning from the VMAC on 950 KJR. Let's get to the Heritage Distilling text line and the text, please. Hit it.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day. Mailman, mailman, mail today. Reach right in and pull one out. Those letters. I love those letters. Let's find out what you got to say. Oh, boy. Mailman, mail today.
Dear show, ... By the way, we're 9 minutes away from the top of the hour, which means Hugh's got something on his mind. Hugh's got something to say to us at 8 o'clock. 8:15, Luke Jokel sits down with us live right here. And then at 8:30, we give you a chance to win 250-yard line seats in a drawing to see the Cardinals and Seahawks on New Year's Eve in the final game of the regular season, 50-yard line seats, by answering the question. We know Hugh's answer to the question because he said so yesterday, which is the question being, how do you view the Malik McDowell story? A, is it just a 20-year-old living his life, unfortunate accident, end of story? Or B, is it a breach of obligation and responsibility to the Seahawks that this 20-year-old would be on an ATV 2 weeks before, I don't know whether he had a helmet or not, 2 weeks before, and getting injured 2 weeks before his first ever training camp? We want you to answer that question. How do you feel as Seahawks fans? We know how you feel, right, Hugh? Slickhawk, how do you feel?
I'm more in the A category.
A category.
Yeah.
Just an unfortunate accident.
Yeah.
20-year-old kid living his life. That's it.
People do dumb things, and I certainly hope he was wearing a helmet. But that part would fall into B category for me if he wasn't. But yeah, I'm in the A.
You don't feel like he has breached an obligation or some sort of a responsibility after signing a contract, because you kind of, kids do dumb things.
Yeah, I mean, he was riding an ATV. You know, I mean, I've tried to ride an ATV. Now, it went just as well about as Malik McDowell's ATV experience.
Right.
But it's not
what
a
do
big
the
deal
techs
for
say?
most
Why are we
people.
hung up on the helmet? Why are we hung up on the helmet?
That's an extra layer
yeah,
of
but
this.
if you're driving recklessly, you can turn your brains into mushed watermelon if you hit a damn tree.
Sure.
You know, if the helmet is inducing you to drive more recklessly,
nobody's saying that.
I don't understand why the helmet has become such a. Was he wearing a helmet, and that's going to determine how we feel about his responsibility. I mean, obviously, you're more responsible if you put a helmet on, but I don't know.
Because riding on an ATV isn't necessarily irresponsible. Riding on an ATV or a motorcycle or a bicycle, even without a helmet, that is irresponsible.
You know what, man? I'm results oriented. We got a training camp on July 31st. Get your ass to training camp and be healthy and don't get hurt recreating. Period. I don't care what you want to do. Don't be hurt. You want to go swim with great white sharks? Don't get hurt. Don't get bit. You want to freaking jump out of a satellite parachute? Don't get hurt. You know, I mean, just get your ass to training camp where we're paying you to be part of this football team. I don't know. It's just this is very cut and dry for me. I mean, Slick, you know this more than anybody. People are saying, well, he's a young kid. Kids make mistakes. Guess what? 19-year-old kids are getting carved up in wars, and they're asked to make decisions, life-altering decisions on a battlefield involving their comrades, and we're sitting there going to give a guy a pass because he wants to be a jackwagon and freaking and not be able to come to training camp after he's going to get paid millions of dollars? Get your ass to camp, healthy. And if you're not healthy, guess what? Yeah, you breached your responsibility to this team. End of story. Does it make you a bad guy? Are you going to go to hell? No. But on this topic, you screwed up the Seattle Seahawks, period. There's no defending it. There's no washing away. No. You got your ass hurt on an ATV, and you're not playing in training camp.
What do the techs say?
Here's a B. Yes, he's a kid and deserves to have fun, but he's had the whole offseason to do that. Everyone saw what happened with Big Ben, talking about Roethlisberger. Here's one. It's B. Seattle drafted him to play, not be hospitalized.
Okay.
B. This quote-unquote kid is under a contract. With our contract comes responsibility. A. Just an unfortunate accident. Here's one. It's a new day. He's in the big leagues. Kids don't make money for playing football. It's time to take your new job seriously and be accountable for the team. B, breach to himself as an independent contractor as well to the Hawks. Fact is, he could have lost his position with his choice. No guarantees in the NFL. This person undecided. For me, it depends on what he was doing on the ATV. Simply riding on one doesn't mean much, but racing, jumping, etc. would be a different story.
We're going to get some more of those opinions. We're going to find out what's on Hugh's mind. Hugh's got something to say to us that none of us know what direction he's going in our next segment. Also, Luke Jokel is going to make his very first appearance on the morning show. Sit down with us here at the VMAC on 950 KJR. Plus your chance to win 50-yard line seats to see the Cardinals Seahawks on New Year's Eve. Yeah. Let's go up. I'm looking at the dog. What's the dog's name again that you love so much? Turf. There he is.
That is.
Is he a happy dog?
Oh. Remember when Turf was just a puppy?
Yes.
They were just taking him around and getting in your faces.
Does Turf like his life?
Oh my gosh.
Is he the happiest dog on the planet?
It is. First of all, paint the picture. This is a gorgeous chocolate lab with these. You know how chocolate labs get those green yellow eyes?
Yeah, they can see right through.
I mean, it's almost like it's something from an outer space movie. These eyes are just this brilliant color that you've never seen on any other animal.
Yeah.
I tell you, if we ever have contact with distant planets and galaxies,
here we go,
and we want to send some type of capsule of what life on Earth is like, well, dogs are our most beloved animal of all the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
It is dogs that most want to have relationship with humans.
Right.
We're going to send a capsule of what a dog is, and Turf is the quintessential. That is the paradigm of dogs on Earth. That dog.
And that's not even what Hugh's got to say. Hugh's got something to say, and that's not even it. So we're getting ready to hear day 2 of Hugh's got something to say. Training camp coverage, counting you down to kickoff. Sponsored by MBA Health Trust. building better benefits. Let me get you updated on the headlines real quickly from here at the VMAC because Luke Jokel is going to join us at 8:15. That gives Hugh Breedlove-Millen the floor. It gives him the floor until 8:15 when Luke Jokel comes along on 950 KJR. Cam Chancellor, the news of the morning. It's a new 3-year, $36 million. Is that what you said?
Yep.
3-year, $36 million deal extension for Cam Chancellor, one of the most popular Seahawk players ever. Cam Chancellor gets his contract extension. It's $25 million guaranteed. It's being reported by ESPN. So it looks like this is going on how many years? When did he hold out? It wasn't even last year that he held out. It was 2 years ago that he held out, right? This is going on 3 years, this story. The culmination today with a 3-year, $36 million contract extension. Now, Malik McDowell reportedly will be here today. Whether we'll see him or not is another question altogether. Whether we'll talk to him or not, another question altogether. But he's making the trip from Michigan to Seattle, which tells us that he's at least healthy enough to fly after the ATV accident. Also, the Seahawks bring back veteran linebacker Mike Morgan. Mariners 500 after winning a thriller in Texas 6-4. They actually trailed 4-zip, scored 6 unanswered runs, got the Robbie Cano 2-run hit in the 9th. Got great relief pitching from guys like David Phelps and our guy Sugar did his job, and the Mariners are now 1 game over 500, 2.5 games behind the wild card in the American League. Activity around baseball real quickly. Yu Darvish traded from the Dodgers or to the Dodgers for prospects. Sonny Gray goes to the Yankees for a package of prospects. Astros get Francisco Liriano from the Blue Jays. Red Sox get Mets closer Addison Reed. And the number one prospect in all of baseball will make his debut tonight. 21-year-old shortstop Ahmed Rosario from the Mets is going to make his big league debut tonight. Kyle Lewis hit his 4th home run in 36 at-bats for Modesto last night, hitting .333. And Tyler O'Neill is at it again for Memphis since the trade. 3 home runs, 14 RBIs. He had 4 RBIs, a single-double, and homer last night in the Cardinals AAA game in Memphis. 8:06 on 950 KJR. We're getting Luke Jokel here. I was here with Hugh Breedlove-Millen yesterday. Watched a little bit of practice. Our second day together here on the radio program, and I'm just wondering what's going through that noggin yesterday, this morning. What's on Hugh Breedlove's mind today?
Yeah, well, quickly, the obligatory disclaimer. This is y'all's idea, but you laid it on me, so here we go. I'll tell you what's on my mind, Mitch. Cornerbacks are on my mind. Two specifically.
Yes.
Nico Thorpe. 6'2", 210 pounds, and I would say, as I'm tying this together, it's a body profiling topic that I have with the cornerbacks too, Nico Thorpe, and I'm also going to talk to you about in a second about a Husky cornerback. And the body profiling, I'm talking about.
A former Husky cornerback or a current Husky cornerback?
Current Husky cornerback.
Okay, I thought you were going to the former Husky cornerback.
No, I'm going with a current Husky cornerback. Okay. Because you asked me what's on my mind.
What's on your mind, Hugh?
You give me the blank slate.
Yeah.
I got
what's
the
on
canvas.
your mind? Yeah.
That is exactly what's on my mind. I went to both the Seahawk practice and all of the Husky practice yesterday. Cornerbacks on my mind and body profiling of cornerbacks in this regard. First of all, before I say it, I had a conversation with John Schneider. I'm almost certain it was right on the field in a pregame against the Vikings. I'd say 95% sure it was the Vikings.
Yeah.
And we were talking about body profiling, and he says that's a big part of what we do. It's a huge part of what we do. And as we watched the warm-ups of the Vikings, he said, for example, look at that right guard. I think it was number 64. I could be wrong on the number. He goes, watch that right guard. He's got no ass. He's going to get walked right back to the quarterback. The very next rep, that kid was given ground. This is pregame warm-up.
Yeah. Schneider called it.
He called it. He called it right before the
just based on the way his body looked.
He says you got to have. There's a certain. You operate within a certain subset.
Yeah.
Now, are there outliers? Of course, there's outliers, and give credit to Seattle. Russell Wilson was an outlier.
Absolutely an outlier.
And Jason Garrett, the Cowboy coach, he has a great line. He and I were teammates. We were talking about this. He says, "Hey, we." Absolutely body profile. We have a certain height, weight, speeds, triangle, and guys almost always fit in that. He says, now, we will go outside of that if we think a guy walks on water. That's his words.
And what is that for cornerbacks?
Well,
does everybody agree, or is it different in different organizations?
So that's what's on my mind here is because the Seahawks right now, the starting cornerback, if they played
tomorrow,
tonight,
right?
Nico Thorpe, 6'2", 210, and you look at him, and he looks like a safety. And I've talked to a lot of DBs. They will look at wide receivers, and sometimes they'll say, you know what? Here's a 6'4.5" wide receiver, and the DBs, they just get up in this, having never even seen a guy, they will make an assumption this guy can't be sudden in and out of his breaks. He's too big. He's too big, and so they will cover more closely. Guys are making those determinations. They are, in essence, what they're doing is they're assessing probability. They think, look, if I take the entire subset of 6'4.5" receivers, they as a group are not going to be as sudden as a guy who's 6 foot or 6 foot.
Are you saying 6'2" for Nico Thorpe is?
It's big.
It's big.
It's big.
How big is the guy on the other side? Number 25.
6'3", but he's skinny.
Oh, so you're talking about
it's 6'2" and 210.
6'2" and 210.
And you look at his calves and his knees, and he's got a beautiful body by athletic standards. He looks like a safety.
How does he look like walking in a mall? If you saw him walking in a mall,
he's incredible.
You said earlier this morning, certain guys that look great walking in a mall, but that doesn't make him a good football player.
When I was a rookie with the Rams, they put the rookies through a lot of hazing, and they used to have this red onion. They'd have the hot body contest, the wet T-shirt.
Restaurant, yeah.
Well, from time to time, they do it with the dudes. And somehow they arranged so that all the Ram rookies had to be in a male hot body contest on a Wednesday night.
Were you in that?
Well, I had broken my leg. So I was on crutches. They didn't make me
That's a good thing.
going that. But
it's a good thing nobody wanted to see that.
So I think, look, I like girls and nothing but girls. I've been married for 19 years. But I got two eyes, and I can see when a dude has a hell of a physique. This guy has a hell of a physique.
Nico Thorpe.
Absolutely.
But for a safety.
What I'm concerned about, and I'm going to go right back to what I said about corners, and they make the assumptions about a 6'4.5" receiver.
Yeah.
How sudden can he be? I want to see whether or not he's twitchy enough and change direction.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's possible that he's a little too big. The man is 27 years old. He's been in the league for 5 years. So now we've got a team in the Seahawks that play cover 3, which is a single safety defense. Corners are asked to defend the go route up the sideline and everything back towards the line of scrimmage. They don't have help. That is real island stuff.
You need to be nimble.
You have to
nimble.
You have to get in and out of breaks.
And you don't think his body type?
That will be the question. Why is he 27 years old and it hasn't come together for him? And again, he looks like a safety. If he can play corner, it's the Legion of Boom. It would be ideal to have a guy with that type of stature. Now, Brandon Browner was the original corner on the right side, the Legion of Boom. He wasn't as quick a foot, but he was pushing 6'4", and he was great at the line of scrimmage, and he was great defending a fade because of his height. He could turn, and those long arms, he could influence the ball.
So I'm just getting a mixed signal. What's the height? What's the height and weight you want? You're talking about Brandon Browner. He was out of the box. He was out of the
box.
Okay, but he worked out. What is it that you'd like to see? What is it? And then you got Richard Sherman on the other side. What is it that you want to see from Nico Thorpe?
Well, if you go over the last 10, 15 years, you take all the Pro Bowl and all pro corners.
Yeah.
They're going to be pretty close. A guy's going to be about 6 foot, 6'1". That even there's going to be a ton of 5'11" great corners, but let's just say 6 foot, 200.
Yeah.
A Marcus Trufant type. That would be the type of build that you would normally see. And now you'd say, well, there's more guys that are 6 foot 200, so it would be common. You would expect them to be the guys that would make the Pro Bowl and the All-Pro teams. But 6'2", 210 is a big corner. Then the other thing I got to say, Byron Murphy. Remember this name, Byron Murphy, redshirt freshman, starting left corner for the Huskies. This guy, I'm telling you, is going to be a playmaker. He is reportedly the best recruit, the highest-ranked recruit that Chris Peterson has ever signed. You watch this kid, and he is fluid beyond all imagination. I mean, he can 360 dunk a basketball.
What's his height and weight?
That's the part of the body profiling. He is about 5'11", 180.
Yeah.
So I guess to wrap it up and in terms of a topic, I got one corner at the Seahawks that I'm hoping isn't too muscular to play the position.
Right.
I got another corner over at the Huskies who I think has star power.
Yep.
Who I'm concerned, if there is a concern, might be a little frail. That's the only concern I have.
All right, we don't have 6'2", 200 in front of us right now. I'll tell you that right now. When was the last time this guy was 6'2", 200, for goodness sakes?
Woo. Answer that question. Yeah, middle school.
6'2", 200. Luke Jokel
maybe
was 6'2", 200 at birth, for God's sakes. 6'2", 200. Joining us for the first time on the radio program is the offensive lineman and the new offensive lineman of the Seattle Seahawks, Luke Jokel. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for being on the Seattle Seahawks. Tell us, first of all, give us an update, because we know it's been described as a catastrophic knee injury. How you feeling? What'd you do to that knee? Give us the medical report on that knee and how you're feeling right about now.
Last season blew out the ACL, MCL, and lateral meniscus. Just part of the game, contact injury, nothing you can do about it. But it's been a long rehab process, long off season, but worked my tail off every single day and feel healthy and feel ready to go.
You have been introduced your whole life as the second overall pick in the NFL draft. Are you sick and tired of hearing that you were the second overall pick in the NFL draft, or is that something that you enjoy, the tag, every time Luke Jokel is introduced to anybody as the second overall pick in the NFL draft?
I don't think I would say I enjoy it, but it's there. The expectations have always been there. It's always been very high expectations for me since I got in the league, and it's part of it. Got to go out there and perform, but I just try to treat it like I got to go out and play football. Got to go be consistent. Got to go be dominant, and just try to take that mindset every single day.
When Mitch asked you about that knee, one more on that. They was talking about the baseline of 100. So if in your mind you're a world-class athlete that's connected to his body, in your mind, a perfectly 100% healthy knee, let's call that a baseline of 100. Truthfully, where would you say your knee is right today?
In my mind, I'm at 100%. I am. It's all positive thinking. It's all I'm ready to go.
No weakness.
I feel good. I feel 100%. We're going to work our way into camp. Make sure we get the confidence there with the strength and all that. But I've worked my tail off this entire offseason to get back, get strong, get healthy, and I'm feeling positive going into camp.
You are an interesting figure. Without even knowing that you're an interesting figure, you're an addition to an offensive line that has struggled. Admittedly, they would tell you that they've struggled over the last couple of years. It's an offensive line that some people will tell you has gotten in the way from the Seahawks being where they wanted to be at the end. As you have pointed out, or I've pointed out, you were a high-level draft choice, and you're kind of a polarizing figure because on one hand, there are these groups that scout and these pro football focuses and all these places online that'll say, Luke Jokel's been a disappointment. Luke Jokel has not been the player that he was supposed to be coming out of college. And then Tom Cable will come on our show and say, when Luke Jokel played left guard last year, I didn't see anybody in the NFL that played better than Luke Jokel did at left guard. When you look at your own self, when you look in the mirror, when you look at the film, is the truth somewhere in the middle? How would you analyze the way you've played the game in the NFL since coming out of college?
I think anybody at this level, is their hardest critic. We critique ourselves every single play, every single detail of every single play, and it's. I'm my hardest critic, but I also have a ton of confidence in my play. I think I can go out there and be a dominant football player at left guard or left tackle, and excited about that opportunity here in Seattle, and be part of a great football team and help the team win football games.
Did you think coming out of college that there would be shifts in positions and that you would not play tackle all the time and play guard, or does this part of your career surprise you on some level?
It was a little bit of a surprise, but it's just part of it. I've always considered myself a team guy. I've always thought of myself as a left tackle, but when it came up last year and we didn't have a left guard, and the team needed me there, and I filled the spot, and I played good football there, and it worked out that way.
I played with a couple of Hall of Famers, Gary Zimmerman, Jackie Slater, tackles, and some other Pro Bowl guys, and so maybe you can talk ball with me for a second in terms of going back. And I played for a really lousy Falcon team, 2-14 and whatever. And you were at Jacksonville. And, sometimes there's organizations where it's just hard to play your best. Sometimes, it's just who you're with or what have you. I know you're not the type of guy who makes excuses, but as you go back and analyze your game and say, okay, in the areas where you didn't play to your standard, maybe talk in some details. You say, hey, I struggled with what aspect of the game? What is it? Is it just the speed of the game? Is it hand placement? Is it technique? I mean, where are you say, you know what? That's the guy I was, but I know the areas I need to improve, and that's where I'm going.
Yeah, every guy starting off in the league is, the hands and the hand games, the defense lineman play is definitely the biggest adjustment. I think the speed of the game wasn't the main thing when I first entered the league, but it's just the hands and not lunging and all that kind of stuff at tackle. But as I've gotten more experience, got more years in the league. Definitely the hand game's gotten a lot better. Still working on that. I think that's the biggest thing.
What is the hand game? Give an example of like the biggest challenge that a guy like you would have. Second overall pick. You say, you know what? I'm in, and my hand game's got to be a little better. Explain to a layperson what that would mean.
It's about the physicality of your strike, the tightness of your hands. In those pass rushers, every single team's got a great one, and they do such a good job. They have the speed, they have the athleticism, they have the strength, but, they're working every single day. You watch those D-line individuals, they're working hands every single day, and, they don't let our hands get on them. And that's one thing, is just keeping your head out, striking your hands, being physical when you're able to get his chest and grab it, but, not over lunging and, getting swiped and getting beat that way. And, that's something that, you learn with time, but just the consistency to do that play in and play out is the biggest thing.
We're visiting with Luke Joeckel, his first appearance on the radio program, and we're thankful for that. Just after 8:21 on 950 KJR here live at the VMAC. Let's talk a little bit about, and I think Seahawk fans would be interested in this, about free agency for you. Did Jacksonville show interest in bringing you back? Did they not show interest in bringing you back? What was the line like for outside Luke Joeckel's door when it became free agency time? If it wasn't the Seahawks, where would it be? Give us kind of a picture of what that process was like for Luke Joeckel.
It was a little crazier process than I thought. Coming off of major surgery with the knee and everything, didn't really know what to expect. Jacksonville did show a ton of interest. At first, I thought I was going to end up back there, and then, Seattle came on, and, when free agency opened, Seattle just was by far the best opportunity, and go play for, a championship caliber team, go play for Coach Carroll and Coach Cable, and, with a young offensive line that can do great things, great athletic guys that, I think we can do great things here, and, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
What happened if you thought you were going back to Jacksonville and Seattle signed you to a one-year contract? What happened in the Jacksonville process that it settled down a little bit from when you thought you were going back to Jacksonville?
It's just, with the knee thing, I didn't get, offered many long-term deals. It's just all about if I could come back healthy. I think the biggest thing was, it was 1 year with an option of 2. I think the longest deal I had was maybe a 3-year deal, but it was just, Seattle was a great opportunity. 1 year deal, kind of prove it deal, and go show what I can do, and then everything opens up again next year.
Okay, we have 1 minute left.
Yeah, and so now you're in camp, and everybody runs inside-outside zone, power and counter gap schemes. What is it that Tom Cable and this group that you guys do that, in your mind, is demonstrably different than what you were doing in Jacksonville?
I think guys, and Coach Cable preaches it every single day, is guys do a great job running off the football here. I think it's a very, very strong athletic group, and running off the football, running their feet, and really drive blocking guys. Guys do a great job doing that here, and we'll see today when we put pads on, and the physicality of doing that is going to be a big difference than running around and dancing with helmets. But it's going to be good to see guys coming off, guys running their feet and drive blocking defensive linemen for sure.
Luke, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having
welcome to Seattle, and go prove it out there.
Appreciate it.
We hope
Thanks.
that you're in line for a big long-term contract at season's end.
Thanks
very, very much. Luke Jokel right there on 950 KJR as we continue live from the VMAC. And now we give you an opportunity to win 50-yard line seats to see the Seahawks against the Cardinals on New Year's Eve. 50-yard line seats. All you got to do is participate in our next segment. And by that I mean just call us at 206-286-9595 or 1-800-829-0950. Anybody who calls us goes into the hat for the drawing. And all we need from you as a Seahawk fan is to answer the following question. You're now undoubtedly aware of the Malik McDowell story. Injured, perhaps seriously, in an ATV accident 2 weeks ago. It appears that he's going to make his first appearance here at the VMAC today. Not necessarily to play, just to report to camp so we can assess the seriousness of his injuries. The question that I've been asking all morning that I want you to answer, anybody who's willing to answer at 206-286-9595 or 1-800-829-0950, anybody who's willing to call that phone line and answer on the air with us the following question. How do you view the Malik McDowell story? Is it A, just a 20-year-old kid having fun doing what 20-year-old kids do, and it's an unfortunate accident? Or is it B, it's a 20-year-old who signed a multi-million-dollar deal as the top pick in the draft for the Seahawks, and he has an obligation and a responsibility to not put himself in harm's way, and he has breached that and hurt the Seahawks as employer in the process? A or B? 206-286-9595, 1-800-829-0950, and you could be going to the Cardinals-Seahawks game on New Year's Eve.
How does it feel?
Good hour so far here at the VMAC. We've gotten what's on Hugh's mind today. He's worried. He's worried about the physicality, at least the physical makeup of Nico Thorpe. He's worried about that second corner position opposite of Richard Sherman. I want to know what the process is to decide who's going to be first on the depth chart when you first come into training camp. I mean, Shaq Griffin hasn't hardly been here yet. And certainly we're all rooting, at least I am, for Shaq Griffin to be the answer opposite of Richard Sherman. We have to wait and see. Interesting self-evaluation from new Seahawks offensive lineman Luke Jokel right there when asked about all of his critics, the Pro Football Focuses of the world, that have said that Luke Jokel has been one of the worst starting offensive linemen in the NFL, and yet his coach, Tom Cable, says no one played the position of left guard better than Jokel before he was hurt. When I asked him, where does he fall? Somewhere in the middle, and what's his self-evaluation? Interesting stuff from Luke Jokel. Ryan Divish is still yet to come live from Arlington, Texas, where the Mariners won a dandy last night to get to a game over 500. Also, Peter King of Sports Illustrated, the Monday morning quarterback, is going to be sitting down with us for a half hour in our 9 o'clock hour. But here's your chance to win 50-yard line seats to see the Seahawks and the Cardinals on New Year's Eve. This is the final game of the regular season. Every day when we're out here during the VMAC, we're going to ask a poll question and ask you to participate on the phone lines. And if you do, you go into the drawing. Every time you do, you go into the drawing. Anybody who calls at 206-286-9595, 1-800-829-0950, and gets through on the lines will go into the drawing. All you have to do is answer our poll question of the morning, which today involves and surrounds Malik McDowell. You know the story by now. ATV accident 2 weeks ago. Unavailable physically to participate in training camp. It appears as if he's going to show up today, finally, from Michigan. We've asked the question. I've asked the question. How do you view this? Is this just a 20-year-old living life like a 20-year-old does, and it's an unfortunate accident? Simple as that, period, end of story? Or does it piss you off a little bit that a kid who just signed a multi-million-dollar contract to become a Seahawk put himself in harm's way? Does he have an obligation? Has he breached an obligation, a responsibility to his new employer by putting himself on that ATV in harm's way and not being available physically for training camp? Is it A or is it B? There's no question how Hugh Millen feels after the last hour. No question. He says, get your ass to training camp healthy, and if you don't, you are at fault. I don't care how old you are. If you're old enough to sign a multi-million-dollar contract to become a Seattle Seahawk, you're old enough to know what to do and what not to do 2 weeks before training camp. Slick Hawk takes the other side. He said, come on. 20-year-old kid doing what 20-year-old kids do, just an unfortunate accident. All right, everybody who participate goes into the hat for the Cardinals Seahawks tickets. Brian in Seattle starts. Go ahead, Brian.
Come on, man. B. This pisses me off. He's not Madison Bumgarner. It's a couple days before camp. Just foolish decision. And on the depth chart question, hey, who's flying around and hitting people in training camp and preseason is what we got to see.
Okay, so Brian has some anger towards the position that Malik McDowell put himself into. Austin and Snoqualmie, go ahead. You're up.
Yeah, I would just say, hopefully he's a young 20-something guy. He's going to learn from this, and hopefully it'll make him better moving forward.
Okay. Brian in University Place, how do you feel about the Malik McDowell injury that's cost him at least the start of training camp and maybe substantial portions of the first regular season?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that I'm pissed, but I think it's foolish on his part that, you got 2 weeks coming up. You're a rookie. Every snap, every day at training camp counts. And for him not being there, he'll be lucky to get on the field this year.
So you'd put yourself a B.
Foolish.
You're B. He has a responsibility even at 20, and he's blown that responsibility the first time around. All right, Kelly.
Yeah,
All right, Kelly in Wyoming. Your thoughts on this?
I think it's a combination. He's a 20-year-old. They think they're invincible, but it could end up being a very costly mistake for him because he did sign a contract, and if he ruins his rookie year, then that's going to be a long-term effect of one weekend of four-wheeling.
Is that an A or a B, Kelly?
Well, I'm going to go with A with a slight touch of B.
A with a slight touch of B. All right, a kid being a kid, but you're leaning towards a kid being a kid. Thank you, Kelly from Wyoming. Todd in Tacoma, how do you feel about the Malik McDowell story, please?
Definitely a B. He's got a big, huge responsibility to the 12th man and the Seahawks, and he definitely needs to realize where he's got to really grow up. He's got a lot of money ahead of him, but he's going to screw that up if he keeps making decisions like that. So
yes.
I'm a B.
You're a B. All right, Ken apparently is up next. How do you feel about Malik McDowell, Ken?
Definitely a B.
Okay.
He signed a contract. He's obligated.
He's obligated to
the Seahawks.
He's obligated to keep himself to keep himself away from harm's way. A couple of weeks getting on that ATV was poor judgment, even though there's nothing illegal about it. Kids, I'm assuming kids are on ATVs all the time. Mm-hmm. And Hugh says, "Hey, get on the ATV all you want, but hurt yourself, and you've done your employer wrong."
There's nothing illegal about cliff diving into 8 feet of water. Don't do it.
How about 6 feet of water?
Don't do it.
Don't do it, says Ken. Ignacio from Seattle. Go ahead.
I'm a B, too. I mean, he's a professional athlete. Regardless if he's a rookie, he signed a contract. I'm sure his agent giving a little bit of advice of what to do and not to do. So he should be held responsible for his decisions. So I'm a big B.
Okay, and I'm a B. That leaves the Bs are winners. Winners today. It seems like the vast majority of Seahawk fans have a little anger towards Malik McDowell for making the decision to put himself in harm's way 2 weeks ago and now potentially putting himself out of action for a good.
What was the final
good.
tally?
Well, it's 5-2-6-2-7-2-7-3. 7-3, including you, me, and Slick, on holding this 20-year-old feet to the fire to be responsible. He signed, he's 20 years old. I hear it. He's young, but he's not too young to collect a couple of $1 million, is he? A lot of 20-year-olds are too young to collect $1 million, a couple $1 million. This 20-year-old's not too young to collect a couple of $1 million.
He's several years older than guys that are getting chopped in half in wars. So no, I don't buy that at all.
Okay. Ryan Divish live from Arlington, Texas. Don't forget the MMQB Peter King is on the way. 30 minutes we'll spend at 9:30 with the terrific Peter King live here at the VMAC on 9:15.
It's time for Talkin' Baseball with Seattle Times' Ryan Divish. Brought to you by Michael's Toyota of Bellevue, with a service department that's open 7 days a week. It's truly all about you at Michael's Toyota on Seattle's Sports Radio 950, KJR.
Hugh doesn't want it. You don't want it. I thought you were going to take this interview, Hugh. He's having a banana.
This is Hugh's wheelhouse.
This is when Hugh gets a chance to
reset,
wander away, shake hands, sign some autographs, kiss some babies. Ryan Divish is live in Arlington today. I hope you're alive in Arlington today. And we're at the VMAC, and I'm going to tell you something, and I don't even know why I'm telling you this and what this means, because it really doesn't mean anything, but it's interesting to me, if nobody else. I can't remember very often, Ryan, sitting in my family room or sitting at the game, going to Safeco Field, watching the Mariners play live or on TV, and getting to a point with Robinson Cano where I thought, like, specifically about the contract. You know what I mean by that? Mm-hmm. Where I maybe a lot of Mariners fans would say, God, I think about the contract all the time, the $240 million. Well, I don't. But yesterday was, for whatever reason, when he was in the batter's box, and it didn't happen until they moved up on the balk, right? They were at first and second with one out, and they went to second and third on the balk, which meant, a fly ball gets the job done. And when they got to second and third, and he was in there, and that sidearm lefty was throwing at him, I found myself saying, you know what, Robinson, $24 million a year. $240 million guaranteed. I need you to come through right here in game number, whatever it was, 107. You got to come through somehow, some way. Get the bat on the ball. It doesn't have to be a hit. Get that runner in from third if you are a $240 million man. How often, Ryan, does that contract kind of fly through your mind when you're watching Robinson Cano play?
Not a ton. I mean, I think of it more along the line sometimes when, like, even yesterday at the trade deadline or just kind of in general, when you're looking at the team in the future or that kind of stuff, you think, okay, they still got this guy for a long time with a lot of money. And I think the other day we were talking about it when he looked a little shaky at second base. We were kind of debating when they were going to move him to first base eventually. Right. And then you're thinking to yourself, man, you're still on the hook for that. Or every time I see Albert Pujols, then I'm thinking, yeah, that could be Cano in 4 years, when Pujols can barely move, and it's quite obvious that he has to cheat on fastballs to actually hit them. That's kind of what I think about. I never think about the money in terms of delivering, but, I know a lot of fans do that, you make $24 million, you should do this. I also think, though, when it comes to delivering or something in that situation, he's the most talented hitter on that team. So I expect him to kind of deliver a lot of the times.
That was a tough spot, though, right? That was a tough spot last night against that guy. That's got to be the hardest type of pitcher that he can face, right? A guy who throws from like first base across his body like that.
Yeah, the guy's mechanics look like a spasm, and then he doesn't throw very hard. And he never really throws anything close to being over the middle of the plate. And if even the pitch that Cano hit for the single, wasn't a double, but the single, it wasn't a strike. It was on the inside. It was inside. But that kind of net drill that he does, where he's able to kind of pull pitches like that and keep them fair, and hit them hard. That's why he does that drill. And it was a really big spot. I mean, they're down 4-0 to Cole Hamels. And I was looking at those guys thinking there's no way they're going to win this game. Not just because of the way they've played in that stadium as well, and just because of the way they've played every time they get to 500, they seem to throw a stink bomb out there. But they went out and kind of they went and won the game. I mean, the Astros or the Rangers helped give it to them because Rougned Odor made 2 brilliant plays in the field and made 2 stupid errors, and he hit a bomb. He had a full game, and then for whatever reason, Alex Claudio didn't remember that you have to pause when you throw home when you're from the stretch, and gave them 2 balks as well.
I know that David Phelps struggled in his last appearance, but after last night and earlier appearances, I'm starting to fall as a Mariners fan for David Phelps. I like him a lot.
That was dominant last night, and really, the one guy he walked, Napoli, he said he just kind of lost a pitch, or he should have, gotten him out. But I mean, these 6 guys struck out 5 of them.
Yeah.
And then, he almost had an immaculate inning in the 9th or in the 8th. I mean, 10 pitches to strike out 3 guys. And really the one ball was an 0-2 elevated fastball that the guy almost chased. So it was really dominant. The one thing I like about him is he can get out lefties. He doesn't have to go. It's not as big of a problem for him to try and get out lefties as it is maybe for Nick Vincent or even Tony Zick. He can attack right with him because he has that cutter that he can throw in on their hands.
Yeah. A minute left with Ryan Divish live in Arlington, Texas today. Ryan, did they catch Texas at a perfect time? They're making trades. They're selling off pieces at the deadline. There's got to be a psychology to that of a baseball team when they're trading off their pieces, their big pieces, and kind of mailing in the rest of the season. Is this a good spot for the Mariners to maybe sweep this series?
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially right after the deadline. I mean, just the whole idea yesterday, I'm sure it was a circus around there. I mean, it was in the press box and down, but I'm sure in the Mariners or in the Rangers clubhouse, Yu Darvish leaves. I mean, the day before Lucroy had left. So you're seeing these pieces, and there is kind of the sense that, hey, our leadership has waved the white flag. And so, there is that kind of, it takes a few days. I mean, the one thing, once they kind of do that, they start bringing up younger guys, and you get that infusion of energy, but they're not at that point yet. They still have a bunch of guys that are looking around going, okay, well,
yeah,
I can start making plans for the offseason, even though we got to play the string out. So, yeah, this is a good chance.
20 seconds. Erasmo Ramirez, what do you expect from him today?
Maybe 5 innings.
Okay.
Maybe 5 innings. I don't think they're going to let him go more than 75 pitches. But,
surprised that he's already in the rotation, considering that he hasn't, they haven't really stretched him out. He's pitched, a couple of 3-inning relief appearances, but not much in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit just because of that, because he hasn't started a game since June 21st, but they really don't have a lot of better options than they do right now, so I guess that's what they're going to go with.
All right, enjoy the heat. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Arlington,
you enjoy
Texas.
that heat up there, too.
Yeah, I will. Ryan Divish here in Arlington, Texas. We're here at the VMAC 950 KJR, where Peter King is on the way, the MMQB, to talk about all kinds of good stuff happening around the National Football League.
For the 12th man in the NFL is live from the VMAC for Seahawks training camp.
This 12th man factors in, no doubt.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
And we've got news here at Seahawks training camp this morning, with the coverage brought to you by MBA Health Trust, building better benefits with Hugh Breedlove Millen. We've got news, Hugh. You haven't spoken too much about the news. I haven't given you an opportunity. After 3 years of soap opera type of tendencies, Cam Chancellor has gotten his deal, and I'm actually kind of surprised.
It's big, isn't it?
I'm kind of surprised with the guaranteed money. $25 million guaranteed, 3 years, $36 million. It's the age-old question, and we'll come back to it. I'll give the headlines real quickly. We'll start right here with you on this. It's the age-old question of, do you pay a football player? And football is different than basketball and baseball, where they have big guaranteed contracts. Do you pay a football player based on what he's done, or based on what you forecast him to do? It's a tricky, slippery slope, especially when you're discussing a popular player like Cam Chancellor, who's not only popular amongst Seahawks fans, but he is maybe the most revered and popular guy in that locker room amongst Seahawks players. And we've heard Seahawks players go on the record as saying, get Cam done, get Cam extended. We want Cam to get his. $25 million guaranteed, 3 years, $36 million, and it looks like, anyway, that there's a decent chance that Cam Chancellor will start and end his career with the Seattle Seahawks. That's the news of the morning. The other news of the morning, it looks like Malik McDowell is either here or on his way here. We don't know whether we'll see him. The media will see him. We certainly don't expect him on the practice field. I don't know what kind of availability they're going to make on Malik McDowell, but at least it's a step in the right direction the man who was the top pick for the Seahawks in the draft and signed a multi-million-dollar deal, also got in an accident, an ATV accident a couple of weeks ago that has left his availability very much up in the air. At least he was able to get on a plane and come from Michigan to Seattle, where he can be in front of Seattle Seahawks doctors. Also, the Seahawks brought back linebacker Mike Morgan. The Mariners are over 500 after a fabulous win yesterday. Down 4-0. They scored 6 unanswered runs, capped off by Cano's 2-run hit in the 9th. Eddie Diaz electric in relief. David Phelps maybe even better. In fact, the game ended on a 100-mile-an-hour swing and a miss on a fastball from Diaz to Rougned Odor, and the Mariners keep scratching towards that wild card position, 2.5 games back in the wild card chase. Good news on the farm. Kyle Lewis seems to be getting healthier and healthier. He hit his 4th home run in 36 at-bats for Modesto last night. He's hitting .333 from Modesto. The news that Mariner fans don't want to hear, Mariner fans, you may want to cover your ears right now, is another big night for Tyler O'Neill at AAA Memphis for the Cardinals since the trade. Tyler O'Neill last night, a single, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs. He's got 3 home runs and 14 RBIs in 9 games since the trade, and he looks primed to be ready to be called up to the Cardinals for some major league action. Also a nice story from the Cubs organization presenting a 2016 World Series ring to Steve Bartman 14 years after the ill-fated foul ball incident, which I've called on the show in all of my years as a sports fan and doing whatever it is that I do. The worst and most unfair sports story not involving illness or death in my 40 years as a sports fan, the way that life was altered and almost ruined based on what I thought was an action that just about all of us would have done the exact same thing. Anyway, that's the headlines. We're here at the VMAC. We've got Ian Furness, who's going to join us here. He's been here all morning. Interesting that he's been here all morning. We call him and ask him to come. We call and ask him to come for the round table. He can't do it. He's got kids' responsibilities.
Yes.
Can't make the trip. Can't do it. Wah, wah, wah. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, twice in a row, he's here. Courtesy of Fox 13.
He's
we
looking
see
good,
where we
though.
rank.
He looks good on TV.
Yeah, he looks good in makeup. I think he looks great in makeup.
You don't have to sell me out with the makeup. It'll start melting off here in about 5 minutes.
And Hugh Breedlove Millen is here, and Peter King is on the way, the MMQB. So we've got a busy plate, a very packed plate here on our schedule this morning. Hugh, the story that came down in the middle of the show, and I frankly, I'm a little surprised that the number is as high as $25 million guaranteed. That's a hardy number for a guy who's been injured, who knows how many more good years he's got left to play the safety position. He plays it in such a physical manner. And the question that I brought up a few minutes ago that you always ask yourself in football situations is, do you pay a guy more for what he's done, or do you pay a guy for more what you expect he will be over the next couple of 2-3 years? And this contract, was it A or B for Cam Chancellor?
Well, we don't know entirely. There are some contracts out there. Eric Berry, he's in the middle of a $78 million contract with $29.8 guaranteed and practical guarantees of $40 million. Tyrone Matthew has a practical guarantees of $40 million. Rashad Jones, your Dolphin, $35 million. Harrison Smith at Minnesota, $28.5. So he's pushing up to the top of the market. By the way, Earl Thomas right now in a 4-year contract, 19.725,
but
guaranteed, and 27.7.
But you're talking about in all those guys' cases, their first big contract after their rookie. Most of them, the first big contract after the rookie contract expired. This is his. He got his. Now he didn't like his, and his agent should have been, hung up by his toes for the contract that I think he signed in the first place. But still, that's 4 years, 3-4 years ago. This is kind of his swan song contract, and those are the prime
Eric,
contracts.
Eric Berry's 28. Rashad Jones is 29. Chancellor was going to be a free agent in 18. I would say, to answer your question, Mitch, I think
$25 million.
I think that
guaranteed.
It's primarily, and it should be primarily, the vast majority needs to be what they expect of you. Is there a value to paying for a guy for what he did? I would say yes, and the first thing that comes to mind for me is how it impacts the locker. I remember being with the Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson. There was oh my gosh, why am I drawing blank? It was a special teams
Bates.
Yeah.
Bill Bates.
Bill Bates. How'd you know?
I'm just
Maybe
guessing who the special teams guru was
Bill
when
Bates,
you were with the Dallas
but
Cowboys.
He was a nickel safety and special teams player, and they gave him a contract, and Jimmy Johnson in front of the entire team said, hey, listen, I want you all to know, and he didn't announce this with all contracts. He said, I want you to know, we signed Billy. He says, you need to know that if you want to be a Dallas Cowboy for life, you can be a Dallas Cowboy for life if you do it the way Bill does it. And, unbelievable prepare, unbelievable teammate, give you everything you have. And Jimmy, so I think there is some effect with some of these younger guys. Hey, how are they going to take care of their own? Leaders like Cam Chancellor. Now, I'll say this by disclosure. Cam Chancellor is my favorite Seahawk. I don't wear jerseys. I don't begroan any people who wear jerseys to game, but if you told me I had to wear a jersey, well, I know you're that's opinion. I don't have that opinion. But if you told me I was going to wear a jersey, I would take 31. I would be walking into that stadium.
And why?
You know what? Love how he plays. The ferocity, just knowing, I don't know. Football. Look. Football, the mind of a football player. Adidas did a long study on football players, and they finally, the conclusion was, this is after interviewing hundreds and thousands of high school, college, and pro football players, and they said football players have two mindsets. They're either thrillers or they're destroyers. And that's what makes the game great. You've got the thrillers, the Deion Sanders. You got the destroyers, the J.J. Watts. Sometimes they're a combination of both. It's such a beautiful game because the thrillers have to dwell in the land of the destroyers. And even though technically I played a position, I didn't thrill anybody, but I should, that's the goal, right? There's an appreciation for the doggone destroyers, and to have a destroyer at a position not accustomed, normally, he's such a tour de force of a destroyer, and how when those cutback lanes, if he feels, if they run away from him and a running back thinks he has a cutback lane, he's going to actually absolutely get destroyed by Cam Chancellor. So I think that physicality, and then the other part of it, watching him play the game. But when he sat down with us, how many interviews have we had through the years? We sit down. The Seahawks are gracious enough to give us about a dozen or two every year, right? And a lot of times they're repeat guys. But when Cam Chancellor told the story of how he presented his mother that automobile and said, oh, by the way, Mom, this beautiful car in this beautiful driveway, look at the other key. The other key is to the house. And just watching his facial expression 5 feet in front of us when he was talking about how gratifying. We're told when we're younger at Christmas time that it's better to give to receive, and you're a kid, you go, what the hell are you talking about? It's way better to give me more freaking train sets, right? Some point we want to acquire that wisdom. Right in Cam Chancellor's eyes, you saw the joy that he had in giving. I don't know. I love the man.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell Ian. I'll let Ian get in here. I'm going to tell you what we also love about him, and it's pretty obvious, is there's something about the incredible leadership of a guy who's very soft-spoken.
Yeah,
those guys don't come along every day. The guys that absolutely control the locker room, control the people around them, and yet are not boisterous, are quiet, are soft-spoken, and yet plays the way he plays on those guys don't come along every day. And when you get one and Cam is that guy. I mean, Cam is so quiet and so reserved and kind of humble that when you're around such a presence, especially the rest of these guys on here, the Michael Bennett's and Richard Shermans, and they all have their place, but then walks in Cam Chancellor. He's the opposite of those guys.
I just think
you love that guy,
yeah,
don't you?
I think of Cam Chancellor on a lot of levels. One is Keanu Neal from Atlanta, and how many of those guys are in the league that we've heard over the years come into the league and say, that's my idol. That's who I want to be. Yeah. Like when NFL players tell you that's who they want to be and they're pointing to another player, that's the ultimate compliment. And there's only one. I mean, you and I were talking. It's funny. You and I were watching him yesterday. We're talking about him. He's such an outlier. I mean, he's 6'3", but you think he's taller. I think you're right.
Closer to 6'4".
He kind of wants to, but he's 6'4", 230 pounds. The quiet nature that you just talked about, Mitch, I think that's part of the aura around Cam that scares people. I mean, he has an intimidation factor in a sport that, over the years, when you think of the great intimidators, one's going in the Hall of Fame this weekend. The guy that played here 45.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to look around. Where's 45? And that's what teams do with this guy. They look around. He changes everything just by being Cam on the field. And we can talk hardcore football and schematics and cover 1 and cover 2 and all the different things, cloud coverage here, all those things. That's great. And all matters. What matters is where's 31? Because what's the dude thinking that's going across the middle? Where's 31? That changes everything. And the leadership, Mitch, you talk about, I think that's a great point from this standpoint. I think there's two guys in this team that we don't always think about in terms of their importance, that the intangible, and that's the leadership. And they do it kind of differently, but it's the two safeties. Because you've got the boisterous, loud Michael Bennett. You got the boisterous, loud Richard Sherman. Bobby Wagner leads by example. Really, that's what he does. KJ Wright kind of does his own thing. Cliff Averill leads by example. Those two guys set the tone, and I always go back to watching games they don't play that those two guys don't play in. I think they're 1-6 when they're both not in the lineup over the last 2 years. Yeah,
and Thompson.
1-6. But on top of that, it starts the very early warm-ups. When Earl Thomas walks on the field, when Cam Chancellor walks on the field, the grab ass ends. It just ends. It flat out ends. And I watch that. You're down on the field when I'm down on the field, 10 o'clock in the morning. When those guys walk, and they don't say anything. They don't say anything. Yeah. They just go about their business, and it ends like that. They have such great leadership qualities. To me, $25 million guaranteed for a guy that keeps himself in incredible shape. And I don't think 30 is what it used to be in pro sports. I think it's a little bit different now, unless you're maybe a running back. We'll see with 24 this year in Oakland. But I think a guy that keeps himself and prides himself in health, fitness, and everything like that.
But a guy
25, I think, is a bargain.
A lot of games.
And that's
right?
And Mitch, he's missed games each of the last 3 years.
And he the prospects and the prognosis is he's going to miss more games.
Absolutely.
And you gave him 20, and I don't want to be the guy to say, hey, you shouldn't have given him the $25 million. But I think there's a discussion. I think that there's a discussion, how important are all these other things that you guys mentioned? The respect that he has amongst his peers, his influence in the locker room. You've got other guys on the team speaking publicly for him, saying, get him his money. There's going to be a revolt here if he doesn't get his money. Would the Seahawks have done the same thing with an oldish safety who plays the game the way he does and who's missed as many games? Would they have done the same thing with him if he didn't have all these other attributes to him?
Perhaps not, but I don't think that's irrelevant what he does. I mean, that's like when you learn in econ, costs aren't just dollars. There's your time. There's opportunity costs. Costs have many forms, and you also learn that there's value not just on the play. Remember the Atlanta game, the infamous meltdown. Here you've got Richard Sherman, and I sided with Sherman. I don't want to get into the details in that. I think there's a lot of things from a scheme standpoint. Chris Richard's on the field. He's calling out his players. So now you've got this incredibly combustible situation in the third quarter of a football game. Go back and watch a video. You know this, Mitch. I don't have to tell you this, but who's the guy that's in Richard Sherman's face?
Not in pads, because he was out that day.
He wasn't even in pads.
Not even in play. Not even playing.
Who was the guy that was grabbing Richard Sherman and put nose to nose, looking him right to eye, and talking sense to him?
Yep.
And the only guy Sherman was going to listen to was Cam Chancellor. It wasn't going to be Chris Richard. Pete Carroll was going the other way. Who was going to do it? It was Cam Chancellor. And and guess what? Seattle won that game.
There's one guy.
After a terrible third quarter, they pulled themselves together and they won that football game. So, your point, I understand it. You say, okay, is there a limit to how much you'll pay for intangibles? Yes.
Look, I'm just
there is a limit.
I'm bringing it up for conversation.
Because
the economics of this, the way this works, we all know the way this works is he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. You assess as the team that's negotiating with him, his own team, a year earlier than that. You assess what that number is going to be, okay? And then you get a discount on that for a guy like this because you give it to him now. Yep. He doesn't have to go out and risk his body. He doesn't have to worry about the year. So whatever is it 80 cents on the dollar? Is it 75 cents on the dollar? Whatever you could do we think that he was getting $35 million guaranteed next year at this time? Do we think he was getting $40 million guaranteed? They gave him $25 million, and now he's not a year older, and he doesn't have to sweat whether he's going to be broken down a year. So I think the conversation is a fair one as to whether the $25 million was the right number for the Seahawks.
Well, there's no doubt it's a fair one. It's a question that will be asked throughout the league. It'll be debated by a lot of people, even outside of this market, because of all those things you just mentioned. The intangibles. You know, you always say you can't put a price tag on the intangibles. They just did. They put a price tag on it. It's $25 million. Okay, because who Cam Chancellor is, well, half of what he is intangibles.
It's $10 million. It's $8 million because you're going to give the football player $15 million or $18 million.
So they put a price tag on it.
Are you going to give him $8 extra million because of what he means to the team?
And here's the give and take and the reality of the National Football League. When we all sit here and debate and argue and throw stones at the offensive line, which is inevitable, it'll happen, right? It's going to happen at some point, whether it's in the preseason, training camp, or Game 4 of the regular season. This is the trade-off. I mean, you look at the core guys they have and the way the salary cap works in the NFL. Safety, cornerback, linebacker, defensive end, quarterback, wide receiver, Baldwin and Wilson. Right? Those are the guys that they pay big money to. Graham in the last year of his contract, probably the last year as a Seahawk, right? So that's where the big money goes. Then the reality is you can't pay another position group. And you rob Peter to pay Paul. Paul are the safeties and the defensive players. Peter's the offensive line. That's going to continue to be the case. You have to have give and take.
Well, yeah, it's going to cost somebody somewhere. And at some point maybe we can connect the dots and we can infer where again, opportunity cost. You're going to pay Cam Chancellor extra money. Well, it's going to be taken away from somewhere.
Right. And here, let me just say, I'm not saying that they're doing the wrong thing because I think the proof is 5 straight playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls. What they're doing their way, it's worked so far.
Well, I'm going to come back to that point about how contracts like this reverberate through the locker room. And they do so much talking about the team, and I'm in, and we're going to slap the thing, I'm in, and hey, we're unique. We're a unique organization. We not only do we tolerate differences, we celebrate your differences. And yesterday we heard about tribes. We're not a team, we're a tribe.
Right.
If you're going to take a guy who is the heart and soul, and you're not going to reward that, you say, well, let him walk after 18, at the age of 30. I don't know. I think that this contract is going to reverberate, and the other players are going to see, okay, the Seahawks aren't just giving lip service to the team and the family part of their effort.
I tell you what, thanks, Ian. I tell you what, let's get a national perspective on Malik McDowell. Let's get a national perspective on $25 million guaranteed for Cam Chancellor at this stage of his career, at this age, having not played, having missed a lot of games. Let's get some national perspectives on the Seahawks, where they stand, from a guy I think who's more equipped to do this than anybody else, the MMQB. He's in town covering the VMAC. Sports Illustrated is here. Peter King is next on 950.
Seahawks training camp on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
There's a lot of important questions at the VMAC. We got the Cam Chancellor contract that came in today. We got the Malik McDowell story. We've got questions. We need answers. But really, there's only one very, very important question. Peter King, the MMQB Sports Illustrated, he goes on all these radio shows. You know what he tells them all, Hugh? He tells them all, you're my favorite. You're my favorite. You're my favorite.
Listen, you guys are my favorite, and you know it. You know it.
And so the question is, all these favorite children that he has,
How many of them play Bruce Springsteen every time he comes on the radio program?
I don't know, but, I'll tell you this. I hate to give our site a cheap plug, but I actually led Monday Morning Quarterback yesterday with a Bruce Springsteen story.
There you go. What's the story?
And the story is that that at Dallas Cowboys camp, I found out that Jason Garrett had read Bruce Springsteen's 528-page autobiography early this offseason, and there's a story in there, a sort of apocryphal story.
Hughes' former teammate.
Yeah, Jason Garrett.
Hughes' former teammate, okay.
So there's a story in there that Jason Garrett used as the theme of the offseason of the Dallas Cowboys, and it's about being local heroes. When Bruce Springsteen was the biggest thing ever to happen at Asbury Park. He was 20 or 21 years old, but he hadn't done anything nationally yet. Nobody knew who he was. They went out, took his band out to a showcase in San Francisco. They played the Fillmore. And they go out to San Francisco. There's 4 bands. First 2 bands go up. They're not very good. Bruce's band goes up. They're great. They kill it. Then another band comes up that's not a show-stopping kind of band, but very good musicians, excellent lead singer. And the guy who runs the showcase says, I'm sorry you guys don't get the contract. We're giving it to the 4th band. So they were all crushed. Bruce is laying there sleeping on his parents' couch that night. His parents relocated, which I never knew, from the Jersey Shore out to the Bay Area after the kids were grown. And he was sleeping on his parents' couch, looking up at the ceiling, and came to this realization that that guy was right. We're not good enough. That band was better, and we got to find a way to get better. Now, does that sound like every football coach in every offseason? We got to find a way to get better. But his whole point was that we are local heroes, so what do you want to be? And he told his team, you guys want to be the kings of the NFC East? You want to be the local heroes where everybody in Dallas loves you? No. I mean, you want to be that, but you want to be the kings of the football world. So we have to do everything we did last year to get ready, and then some, to be better than we were a year ago when we went 12-4 and won the NFC East.
He's got to be one of the smartest guys you've ever come across in all the years of. He's not smarter than Hugh Breedlove Millen, but he's smart.
He's Mr. Good Story, Jason Garrett.
Who's the smartest guy? Who's the smartest guy? Who would have the highest IQ of any coach, player outside of Millen? I just was joking with Millen.
John Urschel, who just retired. John Urschel of the Baltimore Ravens is the smartest guy I've ever met covering the NFL. And look, it's a cliche that he's so smart because John Urschel is a doctoral student at MIT. He just retired. And in mathematics. And he wants to be a world-famous mathematician. And he also is extremely good at chess. I met him, extremely good. Like, he can play on a national level. So I met him to do a podcast when I was up in Boston in March. And at the end of the podcast, we went out to dinner at Legal Seafood. And we're sitting there, and he looked at his watch a couple of times, and we're having a really good conversation. It was good. But he kind of wanted to get going because he and his fiance, their date night was going to be, he was giving her a chess lesson. And she had a chess tournament over the weekend. So, and she's really trying to learn how to be great at chess. Anyway, he's the smartest. But I mean, as far as a coach and as far as football smarts and also life smarts, I mean, it's a cliche, but I'd probably say Belichick. Just because, and Jim Schwartz is close too. But I'd say Belichick because, just think of this. His mother, taught college at Hiram College in Ohio when she met Steve Belichick, her future husband, and then left the job to raise Bill. His mother speaks 4 languages. Really? And is an inveterate reader, and until I don't know if she still does. She's quite old. I think she's in her 90s now. She read the New Yorker cover to cover every week of her life. So, I mean, she's just really, really smart. And imagine this, you're Bill Belichick. This is sort of the way I try to explain if people say, what's he like? I said, well, he grew up in a house where his mother had him read his reading assignment to her while she was making dinner. So when Steve Belichick came home, dinner would be on the table and he would have done his homework, and his homework whenever he had something to read, like he read 1984 to his mother by George Orwell, as she prepared dinner over a 2 or 3 week period. And so imagine having that. And then on the other side, you've got a dad who wrote the first book on how to scout football, forward written by Paul Brown. And so how can you be any smarter in football than a guy who wrote the first book ever on scouting? You got a mom who teaches who knows 4 languages, a former college professor, who has you read your homework assignment every day.
Whatever became of him?
Of who?
Bill.
Bill Belichick?
Yeah,
he got into football. He got into football. Here he's a good high school coach back east.
There's some will say now at Cleveland he washes out. He goes 5-11 his first year in New England. He's 0-2 when Bledsoe gets his.
I think 0-1 on their way to their second loss when Bledsoe gets hurt.
Okay, yeah. And so there's some that say, boy, if he doesn't link up with Tom Brady,
it's a good point. I don't deny that.
He's now on Mount Rushmore, undeniably.
Yep.
But it's interesting to think, Peter, about the link of how some people say Brady wouldn't be Brady without Belichick. Others say Belichick wouldn't be Belichick without Brady.
In all the games he's ever coached in his life, where he didn't have Tom Brady as his quarterback, Bill Belichick is under 500. So you can't just dismiss that.
Right.
But I would bet that if Bill Walsh went with Steve Dills instead of Joe Montana, we might be saying the same thing about him. I don't know. This is a symbiotic game. Everybody relies on everybody else.
Yes.
And there's I think it's almost futile if somebody says, well, the only reason Marvin Harrison is in the Hall of Fame is because he played for Peyton Manning and he caught all those balls. Well, I think that Marvin owes Peyton more than Peyton owes Marvin. But Peyton still owes Marvin a lot because the one thing, if you look at Peyton Manning in his career, he would always say, if you don't run precise routes, and you're not exactly where you're supposed to be, I'm not throwing you the ball. So Marvin Harrison ran totally. He was a scientist. If he's supposed to be 17 and a half yards, it was not 17 and a quarter, it was 17 and a half. So I think that the symbiotic relationship between those two guys has been really, really good because Tom Brady, the one thing, and you know this, Hugh, how important it is for a player has to want to be coached. And there's a lot of players who really don't want to be coached. They'll listen to it and they'll be thinking, yeah, this guy's never done this before. But Tom Brady sits in that room once a week for an hour or two or whatever, going over film with Bill Belichick. Okay, and Tom Brady respects the living heck out of Bill Belichick, a lacrosse player from Wesleyan. And so it works. If he didn't listen like that, or he didn't have the respect for his coaches that he has, he loves Josh McDaniels. And he believes that Josh McDaniels absolutely unequivocally puts him in better position to win.
The voice of Peter King, the Monday morning quarterback, the MMQB of Sports Illustrated. I want to in our next segment. Hopefully, you'll stay with us. I want to talk. They want to hear you talk Seahawks football, and we'll do that.
Good. I don't know anything during the break. Will you tell me everything so I could then regurgitate it on the air?
I'd have to know. Okay? I'd have to know it to tell you.
Like I don't know what happened in this car accident. Is it real?
It's real.
Oh, it's real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about it. Cam got a new contract today. We'll talk to you about that. But before we get there, you sat down and I said, "How you been?" And you said, "I'm good." And I said, "Where you been?" And you said, "I just came from Oakland."
I watched the Oakland Raiders practice.
And I said to you, "What was my first reaction when you told me that you've been in Oakland?"
I don't know what was it.
Did you see?
Yes, yeah, I know.
What did I ask you?
You said, "Did you see Marshawn Lynch?" I said, "Of course."
And you said we should talk about.
We should talk about that. Do you want me to tell you my 30-second Marshawn story from yesterday?
Yeah, sure.
Yesterday was the first day of the off season and training camp that the Oakland Raiders put on pads. And they had close to a live period, not full tackling, but the old thump, where you just wrap the guy up. The first two plays in the live period, Marshawn Lynch lines up as a single back in the backfield, and they line up in a power formation. First snap, student body right. Second snap, student body left. Marshawn goes out. Crowd goes crazy.
Yeah.
So I I talked to Reggie McKenzie afterwards, and I said, so I have to tell you, I didn't know about what your role is for him or anything or what you're going to do. And they want him to carry the ball 15 times a game. Yeah. Now, he's got to be part of a running back tandem, but they didn't bring him in to quell the fires in Oakland over moving to Vegas. They brought him into play. I mean, and as a side benefit, he is going to quell the fires in Oakland. That crowd was nuts in Napa
yesterday. Did he get yards
yesterday.
on those carries?
He was bound up
Yeah.
there in a group, but he kept the legs churning, and when everybody else sort of let down, he burst through the hole both times. So all I'm saying, I said to somebody there yesterday, I said, you know what? Those 2 runs, and I did not watch the Seattle Seahawks practice, obviously, because I'm not here. But I would venture to guess that those 2 runs and the effort on those 2 runs were both probably more effort than he gave in his last year in practice in Seattle. That's just my guess. But he is really, really excited to be with the Raiders, and they love him. Every player, front office, everything. So anyway.
More on Marshawn and the Seahawks with Peter King.
Back after this.
Back for Seahawks training camp on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
So before we put the Marshawn Lynch thing away, are you betting on him? This is a hard thing he's trying to do, guys.
No question about it, because at age 29 and 30, he was beat up all the time, or whatever, 28 and 29, I forget now. He's 31 now. And, he's going to, he's not in this for a cameo deal. And so I look at it and I say that I probably will be a little bit surprised if he lasts 200 carries, 16 weeks. 230 carries, let's say, which is, I think, about what they'd like him to do. Well, 16 times 15, they want 15 touches out of him, is about 240. So I'd be surprised because, as you said, Mitch, based on history, you don't have a lot of guys who leave the sport and then come back and are good.
Especially at that position.
Yeah.
You betting on him?
Well, I think his impact can be measured in ways beyond just
yards per carry.
I mean, I think the connection to the city in a potentially crucial time. It's Derek Carr's team.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case here. He came on the scene before it was Russ's team. So I think there's a little bit of a backseat mentality that he's going to have to take in terms of the passing.
But I don't think, you know what, Hugh? I don't think. First of all, Derek Carr's a great leader. If you watched, he was mic'd for sound by NFL Films the game he got hurt last year.
Okay.
Against Indianapolis on Christmas Eve. And if you watch that, I watched that the following week, I think on Showtime. He was incredibly in control of that team. But yesterday, you just got this sense, man, all eyes on Marshawn. And Derek kind of not in any way like kissing up to him or anywhere, or ceding, C-E-D-I-N-G, the leadership role or anything like that. But Marshawn is going to have a very big role at the top of this team.
Every year we come to camp, and I'm assuming that it's similar in other places, but every year we come to camp for the first day, and we are surprised by the Seattle Seahawks. There is something
happens.
Something is been kept under wraps, and we are exposed to it the first day. I can tell you a couple of them. 3 years ago, Cam Chancellor decided not to show up, for God's sakes. He had 3 more years left on his contract. Yeah. He wasn't coming. He wanted more. He didn't like his new contract. He wanted more money. 1 year, Sidney Rice didn't show up because he was in Switzerland getting like alternative
PRP
knee,
treatment,
some sort of treatment. 1 year, what am I forgetting? Percy Harvin. 1 year we got here, and Percy Harvin had a torn leg. He's in New York, for God's sakes. And no one knows where he is. The Seahawks are like, why? Where are doctors? What's going on? Every year. This year, we get here, and we find out that their top pick, Malik McDowell, 2 weeks ago, this was kept secret for 2 weeks, was on an ATV, got in a serious accident. We don't know whether he was wearing a helmet, was in the hospital. We don't know the extent. Some people are reporting prolonged. It's going to be a long time before he can play football again.
Wow.
Wasn't here for training camp. They're saying that he might come in today. And so it leads us to the debate that's been had before. Kellen Winslow Jr., we had it with him. Name all the players that have gotten into accidents in non-football activities and how culpable these guys are. A 20-year-old, 2 weeks before training camp, should we be blaming him for acting like a 20-year-old and getting into a big accident and not making himself available? Hugh's got spirited remarks about that. What do you say, Peter King?
I don't know the full story. I mean, I know what you just told me. I saw a little bit of this on TV last night, but I don't really know it. I'd like to know the full story before I pass judgment on them. But in general, I think that players shouldn't be doing altogether risky things in the off season. Now, having said that, I mean, Tom Brady skis. I think a lot of players ski, and a lot of players probably water ski. But I just think you've got to be smart about what you do in the off season in general.
Okay, all right. How about $25 million? How does $25 million grab you? Guaranteed. $25 million guaranteed for Cam Chancellor announced this morning.
Over how many years? How long is this?
It's a 3-year, $36 million deal, but $25 million of it guaranteed with 1 year left on his contract. I said for the record, that number surprised me a little bit. I thought I'm glad for Cam. That seemed like a pretty big number for a guy who's missed a lot of games the last several years. What do you know about safety contracts?
It seems high because most often in the NFL you're paying for the future. And I think Cam Chancellor probably, if I were to guess right now, Cam Chancellor probably has 2 good years, really good, impactful years left. I've always said about him, I mean, to me, the absolute total outlier at the safety position are guys like, Ronnie Lott and how long he lasted, Steve Atwater, Leroy Butler. Those guys last a long time. That is a physically killer position. And so I look at it, but I just say this. John Schneider, I think, does a very good job at weighing what he wants to do and what he has to do for the team, in my opinion. Uh-huh. In other words, I'm sure that he doesn't want to be paying big money to Cam Chancellor in 2019 or 20, whatever the last year is. But he realizes that this guy has been an absolute centerpiece warrior for a great team. And he thinks that for the next couple of years, he's still going to get it out of him. And if he gives them, I think, 2 more really good, impactful years, then I think the contract works out.
Okay.
Peter, you're as connected to the league as an aggregate as anybody there is. You've seen these type of deals. The story I told in the last hour, when I was with the Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson made a point to note that they had just signed Bill Bates. And what he told the team was, if you want to be a Dallas Cowboy for life, you can be a Dallas Cowboy for life. Do it like Billy. In terms of how you prepare, how you conduct yourself, how you compete, how you lead, all of these things. And there can be a, obviously intangible, but a value to the team that deserves compensation when you have a guy. And I think of what's the alternative? You don't sign Cam Chancellor. What signal are you sending to everybody else?
That's the point.
Are they going to take care of you?
Yeah, that's the point.
And then what kind of effort are you going to get from the younger guys if they don't believe that they're going to take care of their own?
Right. I totally agree. That's what I said about John Schneider. He knows what he has to do to keep this team balanced under the salary cap.
Thank you, Peter. Enjoy we never get rain here in Seattle. Look at this.
This, you know what?
It's beautiful
every year. I remember I once
We're
saw
your favorite, aren't we, Peter?
You are my favorite. He said, lying. No, listen. The time, I think it was like June 8th, maybe about 8 years ago. I saw U2, downtown, outside. And it was light out until 10:10 p.m. And U2 was in their encore before it really started to get dark. And I said, this is the coolest thing, seeing a concert in the light.
Yeah. And by the way, U2 was the 4th band in San Francisco.
Hey, I did a bucket list thing, Mitch, a couple of weeks ago. The last Saturday, this would have been now 11 days ago. Yeah. My wife and I saw U2 in Dublin.
Oh.
really a cool thing.
Wow, how many times have you
And
seen
you know what?
YouTube?
If you read my column, you would know that. See, he doesn't read my column.
I do.
So you're now not my favorite.
The MMQB, Sports Illustrated. Thank you, Peter.
All right, Mitch.
That's it. Chuck and Puck are next.
I hate the weasel. The